A scandal rocked the empire, so big it made headlines across numerous newspapers. Decano, the head of the Test family, the greatest family in the empire, was rumored to be marrying Evangeline, the only daughter of the incredibly wealthy Count O'Hara, causing a stir among the empire's citizens. From commoners to the upper class, everyone rejoiced. Oh my, what wonderful news! Finally, the two families. This is the most perfect marriage in the world. But the reality was different. The woman at the center of the rumors stood before her supposed future husband and said, "Let's call off the engagement." Decano stared at her in astonishment. What? Because Evangeline had broken off the engagement before the wedding ceremony. Rewinding to a few months earlier at the Test estate, the scene opens in Duke Decano's bedroom. Evangeline pulled the covers over herself. "Come to think of it," she said, "what's on the schedule today?" She looked at the man's back as he answered, "Reviewing pending documents in the morning, and there's a party in the afternoon, so I have to greet the guests." He sounded slightly annoyed. Another party. How bothersome. The head of the Test family, Decano von Test, continued, "From now on, you can attend parties on your own without me." Her eyes held a hint of fear as she looked at him. After a moment of silence, Evangeline simply smiled and replied, "Yes, Your Grace. Please attend to your own affairs." Despite her smile, she felt a pang of disappointment. Today's party was to celebrate her birthday, and she had hoped he would attend, but suddenly, she quickly changed the subject. "May I tie your cravat for you?" Decano froze for a few seconds, then calmly replied, "No, I'll do it myself." Evangeline looked at the cold man and thought to herself, it wouldn't do to waste the time of Duke Test, the busiest man in the empire, just on my birthday, would it? More than anything, ours is a political marriage, devoid of love. Watching him disappear, she murmured, "Please be safe." Then she picked up the bell to summon someone. She consoled herself, "It's a shame, but I shouldn't be sad. As the future Duchess of the Test family, I must be patient." A maid entered the room. "You called for me?" She replied, "Bring me some food and tea. Oh, and birth control pills." The scene changes. This time, it's a lavish room filled with laughter. "Oh my, happy birthday, Lady Evangeline." Evangeline smiled and greeted the hostess. "Thank you for coming, Countess, despite your busy schedule." The Countess politely replied, "What are you saying?" "With our relationship, of course I had to come." She then cheerfully took Evangeline's hand. "And what a beautiful venue. Truly fitting for your birthday celebration." Evangeline laughed. "The anniversary of the late Duchess Test is approaching, so I kept the party simple. Thank you for your concern. I haven't prepared much, but please enjoy yourself." Elsewhere, a group of young ladies began to gossip. A.S. expected of someone about to join the Test family. "But I don't see Duke Test. Is he not attending today either?" Another one chimed in, "Oh, he must be busy, right?" A blonde woman, emboldened by alcohol, retorted, "Even so, it's his fiancée's birthday. Shouldn't he be here on a day like this? As I thought, it's a marriage for money, isn't it? I'm only saying this now, but if Count O'Hara hadn't discovered that mineral deposit, this marriage wouldn't have happened." After hearing such outrageous remarks, another young woman gently reminded her, "Miss, you're too drunk." The blonde woman was indignant. "What did I say wrong?" At that moment, someone approached from afar and abruptly spoke, "No, you're absolutely right." Startled by the eavesdropper, the blonde woman turned around. Her face paled when she saw the person she had just been gossiping about. "Lady Evangeline, I apologize. I was just disappointed that His Grace the Duke didn't show up." Despite being the subject of their gossip, Evangeline simply smiled gently and replied, "Is that so? I understand your feelings, Mississippi. However, it would be better if you remained silent today. Whether it's true or not, keep it to yourself. If you can't even do that, then you truly are drunk." The blonde woman wisely gulped down her drink. Haha, yes, I suppose so." The person next to the blonde woman chimed in to smooth things over. "Oh dear, Lady Evangeline, look over there. Someone seems to be looking for you." Hearing this, Evangeline turned. Yes. A footman approached, carrying a black letter sealed with red wax. The guests began to murmur amongst themselves, "Oh, it seems Earl O'Hara has sent a surprise gift to Lady Evangeline. What could it be this time? Perhaps the world's most precious Araban diamond? Or maybe a deed to an island, or the papers to a holiday estate." Amidst everyone's curiosity, Evangeline opened the letter. She froze as she read the contents. What does this mean? Her pupils dilated, revealing her shock. Her father was missing. Just the other day, her father had smiled and promised her, "My lovely princess, I will give you everything in the world." He was the freest soul in the Belich Empire, Earl O'Hara. Memories flooded back. Her father, the head of the largest O'Hara company in the empire, traveled the country himself to conduct business. This time was no different. Her father was away to develop a newly discovered mineral mine. However, the company's ship had returned in pieces, and her father's fate was unknown. Evangeline clutched the letter tightly. She remained silent amidst the laughter. Calm down. Confirm the facts first. Thinking this, she gave an order. Can someone summon Philip from the O'Hara Company for me? Lifting her head, she masked her worry with a smile. Immediately, elsewhere, a hand dipped a quill into an inkwell. We'll continue later. Decano's aide, Michael, asked, "Shall I get you more tea?" He replied indifferently, "No need." A slightly sarcastic voice spoke. "What time is it anyway? Aren't you overdoing it?" Lord Test. Both quickly turned towards the source of the voice. It was Philin Zack Melton, the eldest son of the Zack Melton earldom. Michael couldn't hide his surprise. Naval Commander Philin. He continued his sarcastic remarks. "You're skipping the birthday party of your future wife and just working. Aren't you a bit too dedicated to your work?" Decano pretended not to understand. Philin walked directly towards him. What's with that reaction? Don't you know? He massaged his nose bridge. Be quiet. I have a headache. Philin chuckled sarcastically. Rumors say you're so smitten with Lady O'Hara that you can't leave her side, but that's all a lie, right? Decano's jaw tightened, his expression hardening. "I told you to be quiet." Before he could finish, a voice interrupted. "Duke Test." Outside the office, Evangeline rushed in, her cloak billowing. He was a little surprised to see her. "Evangeline." She removed her cloak and calmly said, "Can we talk?" He coldly ordered everyone out, just for a moment. The others quickly left, leaving the two of them alone in the room. He asked, "What brings you here? Aren't you busy with your birthday banquet?" She replied, "That doesn't matter now. I have something to tell you." Decano gently coaxed her. "I'm a bit busy right now. If you come back after the meeting." But Evangeline cut him off. "I don't know when I'll be able to come back. I know you won't be home for a few days because of the budget meeting at the beginning of the month. So, just talk to me for a moment." Decano still replied, "We'll talk after the meeting. Go with Michael to the next room for a while." But this time, she went straight to the point. "The O'Hara family is bankrupt." He froze upon hearing this terrible news. "What?" Evangeline gave a bitter smile. "The entire fleet sank, and my father is missing. Do you want to hear me out now?" This time, Decano became serious. He asked in disbelief. "The O'Hara trading fleet sank in the Diamond Sea." Looking at his indifferent face, Evangeline thought, even though this is just a political marriage, his gaze is colder than a stranger's. "However, if I want to search for and take care of my father, this isn't the time for pride." She clutched her arm, lowered her head, and softly replied, "Yes." Then, she looked up with pleading eyes. "I need your help. Can you immediately assemble the soldiers and search the Diamond Sea?" He listened to her, but remained silent. After a moment, he simply said, "Go home." Evangeline couldn't believe her ears. "What?" Her voice trembled. "Your Grace." He replied, "Your sudden appearance at the Imperial Palace at this time must have already caused gossip. If things get complicated, it won't be easy for me to handle." Clinging to a sliver of hope, she said shakily, "I'm saying my father's life is still uncertain. This is urgent." Decano looked at her with cold eyes and ordered, "I said go home." Evangeline was stunned. "My father is in a life-or-death situation, but I have to stay home just because of other people's opinions." She steadied herself to prevent herself from collapsing. "If you won't help, I'll do it myself." His hand reached out to touch her, but she firmly evaded him. He said in a low voice, "Don't let yourself be swayed. Wait quietly. Wait." Decano adjusted her clothes, his voice low, almost a warning. "That's what you, the future Duchess, should do. I'll let you know as soon as I have news." Hearing this, she could only leave unwillingly. The ring on her finger seemed to reinforce his warning words. "Father is all I can do. Really just go back and maintain my position." After the unsuccessful conversation, Evangeline stood dejectedly in the flower garden. She looked at the flowers, but her mind was in turmoil. "I've been waiting for Decano at home all day. When will I hear about my father? What if something happened to him?" She fiddled with the blue rose in her hand. A voice from her memories suddenly returned. "Evangeline, it's beautiful, isn't it?" Her grandmother stood beside her and said, "This is a blue rose from across the sea. I particularly love this flower. It reminds me of the time I traveled with my father." She turned and smiled at her. "Do you like it? This garden will soon be yours." She thought to herself, "I end this ducal residence. The only person who truly loved me was the late Duchess." She gazed pensively at the flowers. If she were still alive, could she have persuaded the Duke? Suddenly, the sound of barking echoed from afar, and Evangeline turned. "Rex," she called. The large dog, the Duke's Leon Burger, obediently sat and wagged its tail at her call. She approached and stroked the dog's head. "You came to comfort me, didn't you?" "Thank you. I'll regain my composure." She gave a weak smile. Suddenly, footsteps approached, and both dog and girl turned. Leather shoes clicked against the tiled floor, drawing closer. Decano adjusted his insignia. "That you're here, Evangeline." The dog, despite seeing its master, seemed displeased. Evangeline stroked its fur as she looked at him. "That you're back." She moved closer. "I asked there any news about my father." He replied coldly, "There's still nothing confirmed." Evangeline responded with disappointment. "Is that so?" She bit her lip, thinking, since the news is recent, it's natural that there's no information yet. "But," she declared resolutely, "I'm uneasy. I can't stand it anymore. I want to try going near the site of the incident. Maybe I can find traces of something that drifted away." Decano interrupted her thoughts. "Don't do anything foolish." His words stung her heart. He spoke coldly. "You going there won't accomplish anything. It will only cause more chaos." Evangeline replied sadly, "So you're telling me to just stand by and watch? All the ships have sunk. Whether as his daughter or as his successor, I need to know what's happening. My father, he's my family, my only remaining relative." Decano didn't argue, but spoke sternly. "There's still no confirmation of his death, but even assuming he's gone, you have to think about more important matters." He analyzed the situation seriously. "I in this difficult situation, if either the head of the trading company or the company's assets falter, even just one of them, you'll lose everything. If you become the subject of gossip, not only the earldom, but the entire O'Hara Trading Company will meet its end. Even if the Earl is alive, everything could still collapse and leave nothing behind." She knew, despite her unwillingness, she couldn't argue. He looked down at her. "Yes, oh, wait patiently." She hated those words. How can things turn out like this? Even if it was just a relationship where each of us played our roles from the beginning, the father of your future wife is missing. Evangeline retorted, "You're not even slightly moved." Her gaze was filled with disappointment. "You truly are a frightening person." Decano simply stared at her in silence. Finally, he left, leaving behind only one sentence. "If you understand, then do as I say." She lowered her head, clenching her hands tightly. She thought, repeating, "Wait, without doing anything that you want me to obediently listen. Do you?" Evangeline lifted her head, making a silent decision. "Fine then. I'll sneak out and find out what's going on myself." But there was one truth Evangeline didn't know. Half a day earlier, after she left his office, the clock struck 10 p.m. Decano put down his pen. His face was grim. The final documents would be sent in 2 days, and all the staff sitting beside him were terrified, but still had to reply, "Yes, sir." He indifferently uttered 2 words. "Dismissed." The entire group scattered the moment they saw the Duke leave. Philong, holding the documents, was equally troubled after meeting Miss O'Hara. His mood had become increasingly gloomy. He still needed to secure the budget for military needs, but couldn't bring himself to speak. He cautiously approached. Your Grace, I've chosen my words very carefully." So Decano cut him off, not wanting to hear any more. "Don't bother." Philong fell silent. Then, as if remembering something, he said, "Oh, right, Philong." Officer Philong flinched and looked up fearfully when he heard the Duke address him. Decano ordered, "Deploy troops to the Veman Sea." Philong was shocked by the location. "Deploy? What are you saying, Your Grace?" "Raymond is Kale territory. You're telling me to send troops to a nation we were just at war with." Decano said reassuringly, "We're currently in a ceasefire. So what's the problem?" Philong was utterly stunned. Decano signed the document with a decisive stroke and handed the approved paperwork back to Philong. "Here, are these travel expenses sufficient?" A few days later, at the O'Hara Trading Company, one of the most opulent and prosperous establishments in the empire, employees bustled about, each absorbed in their tasks. Evangeline looked at the scene before her in confusion. "I rushed here early. But what's this?" She was stunned. The trading company is still intact. Last time, Philip said all the assets were lost in the flood and nothing remained. How can the trading company still be standing? A voice called out from afar, "Young mistress." She turned to see who it was. She recognized Philip, the manager of the O'Hara Trading Company. He took her hand anxiously and asked, "Is something the matter, young mistress?" Evangeline replied, "What else could it be? My father isn't here, so naturally, I had to come." Philip became even more agitated. "I understand your feelings, young mistress, but even so, you can't be here." She looked at him, puzzled. Why? Why can't I be here? Philip looked at her pensively. His expression made her feel uneasy. Why won't he answer? It's like he's hiding something. Suddenly, something clicked. Come to think of it, the rumors of her father's accident hadn't spread yet. Could it be that Decano's influence had already reached the trading company? Thinking about their relationship made her even angrier. That man, why is he doing this to me? Even if I'm a perfect counterfeit who's lost the title of wealthy heiress, I'm still useful to him. With that thought, she made up her mind. I can't let him do whatever he pleases. Evangeline said flatly, Philip, my father's fate is currently unknown, so I am the current head of the O'Hara Trading Company. Tell me the truth. Philip stammered, his face pale. That, suddenly a voice interrupted, Madam Duchess. Both she and Philip turned. She groaned inwardly at the sight of the newcomer. She replied, to the distant relative of the Test ducal family, Baroness Levon. Linda smiled and approached her. I was so worried after seeing you looking unwell last time, but I'm so relieved to see you out and about like this. Evangeline observed her fake pleasantries and assessed the situation. What is this woman doing at the trading company? Is she here to collect jewels again today? A few fragmented memories surfaced. 2 years ago, ever since her engagement to Decano, her father had started giving away not only items from the trading company, but to everyone connected to the ducal family. The Duke, those who had received gifts, once often visited the trading company to receive more items, and the woman was one of them. Each time they got an inch, she became more displeased. I was very dissatisfied with their shamelessness. On such days, my father would gently comfort me. She remembered her father's warm pats on her head. He would just smile kindly and say, for my princess, I wouldn't spare anything. As long as my daughter lives comfortably, this small amount of money is nothing. Evangeline's heart ached. At that time, I felt like my father was a fool, but now I understand. He loved me so much that he gave away everything he had. Lady Linda, seeing no reaction from her, nudged Evangeline a few times. Duchess, your expression is rather gloomy today. I'm truly worried about you. Would you like to join us for a cup of hot tea? She said with feigned concern. We're practically family. Linda rubbed Evangeline's shoulder. Surely, spending a little time together wouldn't hurt. She glanced at the hand on her shoulder and thought, worried? She's trying to exploit my apparent vulnerability to get something. Even if we're relatives by blood, she's no different from a stranger. She doesn't hesitate to close the distance to get her hands on expensive items. Until now, I've endured it for the sake of my father's and Duke Test's reputation. Evangeline brushed the hand away. She thought, but now I don't need to. She said indifferently, excuse me, Baroness. I have urgent matters to attend to today. Please forgive me. The other woman looked at her with surprise. Please, feel free to look around, madam. Linda, seeing her deviate from the script, was stunned. But Duchess, the ladies following her whispered amongst themselves, oh my, I heard the Duchess is very close with Miss O'Hara. It seems the Baroness misunderstood. She probably followed along because she heard the Duchess was leading everyone to see the high-quality jewels. Every sarcastic word made her face burn with embarrassment. She continued to cling to Evangeline. Miss O'Hara, actually, I have something I wanted to discuss with you privately. Evangeline ignored her. Excuse me, perhaps later, madam. She thought irritably, I'm already exhausted. I don't want to invite more trouble because of these people from this family. She replied, let's get some fresh air and then come back. Linda quickly blocked her. Miss O'Hara. She called after her, Miss, I'm talking to you. Evangeline snapped, Baroness, please. Her mind was a chaotic mess. Please, please stop. The whole group wore expressions of fear. She silently screamed, leave me alone. Philip looked at her with concern. Young mistress. Suddenly, his pupils contracted. Young mistress. A woman appeared out of nowhere, grabbing her hair and yelling, you bitch. Evangeline was startled, not understanding what was happening. The woman's eyes were red from crying, and a torrent of curses poured out. You devil. If anyone should die, it should be your father, alone. My son, my son. Evangeline looked at the woman's ferocious expression with fear. The woman screamed, save my son, save my son. 2 male guards suddenly rushed in. Protect Miss O'Hara. The 2 men quickly restrained the woman. Philip also ran to his young mistress. Young mistress, are you all right? The woman cursed. While you live in luxury, my son has become fish food. Philip looked at Evangeline's face with worry. The wound on your face. Evangeline held her cheek, injured by a scratch. Around her, commands still rang out. Catch her. Hold her back. She looked at the distorted scene before her. That woman was a relative of a sailor on the ship, and the moment she was attacked, the Test Knights jumped out as if they had been waiting. Had they been following her all along, waiting for this? The more she thought about it, the more unbelievable it became. She thought to herself, I snuck out to visit the trading company, and this man predicted it. In the end, my suspicions were correct. That evening, Evangeline returned to the mansion. Decano stood with his arms crossed, looking out the window. He said, I told you, stay in the mansion and wait. She simply lowered her head without replying. Decano turned around. So, you went out and confirmed your suspicions. Feeling relieved now, Evangeline calmly replied, as the young mistress, I was merely confirming things I should naturally know. I can't be confined here indefinitely without a clear time frame. Decano coldly ordered, stay quiet until our wedding day. She was stunned. Wedding? Her hand tightened on her dress. In this situation, she couldn't believe it. The O'Hara family has collapsed. My father's gone. I've lost my only remaining relative, and yet you're telling me to get married? This time, it was his turn to be stunned. Decano's expression showed a hint of annoyance. Only remaining? Evangeline couldn't understand his reaction. She said, who else is there? I don't even remember the face of the mother who divorced my father, and I have no siblings. She thought to herself, and the late countess, who showed me kindness in this ducal mansion, is also gone now. He didn't respond to her words. She looked at his silence, confused. A slight worry crept into her heart. What's wrong? Why the sudden silence? His hand suddenly reached out. He leaned closer to her. Her face was filled with bewilderment. Your Grace. Decano looked as if he was exasperated by the foolish girl before him. While she looked at him in confusion, what's wrong all of a sudden? The supposed couple stared at each other, the air thick with tension. Evangeline finally spoke first, Your Grace. Decano then said, Your face. What happened? She replied, It's just a minor scratch. He questioned her further. Why didn't you tell me you were hurt? Evangeline simply looked at him silently. He gave in, moving away from her. Fine. Decano called out, Michael. He immediately entered. Yes, Your Grace. Decano ordered, restrict access to the West Wing from now on. She was taken aback. Michael seemed to disagree, but by tradition, that is the Duchess's domain. Decano didn't elaborate. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter or leave. She could only feel a quiet resentment. As expected, he's tried to control me again. Does this man only see me as a possession? She silently watched him. He asked, Is there anything else you want to say? Evangeline simply replied, No. He was irritated by her response. Decano called her name, Evangeline, but she was tired of the conversation. I'll take my leave now. With that, she turned and left. Michael bowed his head apologetically. I apologize, Your Grace. Today's incident was unforeseen. Decano growled. Michael flinched. Yes, Your Grace. Decano's face was fierce. Who injured my woman's face? Michael asked, confused, Your woman? My lady, he quickly reported, I heard it was a sailor's relative, but if you punish her, it will cause gossip and be detrimental to your reputation. Michael pleaded, So, could you overlook it this time? Decano said indifferently, arrest those who leak the information. He analyzed the situation. Normally, it would take a month for news of the accident to reach here, yet an ordinary sailor's family knew the information beforehand. He remembered the letter Evangeline received. Evangeline, the heir to the trading company, only received the bad news by letter a few days ago. It's truly absurd. He replied, It can only be one of two things. Decano's eyes were cold. Either someone survived and spread the news, or someone under my command leaked the information. Michael said fearfully, It wasn't me. Your Grace, please believe me. Decano looked at him. Find out who spread the rumor that the Count's ship sank. The next day, the commotion at the O'Hara Trading Company made the news. The bad news about the O'Hara family spread. Throughout the empire, articles were scattered across the table. Evangeline looked at them coldly. The news spread quickly. Then she left. She walked through the corridors. After Decano blocked the entrance to the west wing of the mansion, I moved to the annex. She chuckled self-deprecatingly. I thought I would feel suffocated being unable to go out, but living quietly alone like this isn't so bad. Evangeline placed her hand on her chest. But why does my chest ache sometimes? Like this. She wondered, the familiar space now feeling foreign, the feeling of being a helpless existence. Suddenly, a shrill voice startled her. Over there, that woman has appeared. Outside, countless eyes glared at her, cursing her. I told you. I said she was in the West Annex. Give me back my son. You must take responsibility. Come out here, hiding in there like a coward. Countless people outside resented her. How can you still be sleeping after what happened? My poor son. Do you know how much I invested? Open the door. Open the door. Their screams frightened her. Why are they here? Suddenly, a calm voice rang out, and countless knights rushed out. Stop! Hearing that voice, the crowd stopped cursing. Decano calmly adjusted his gloves. What is all this commotion? A large, burly man, somewhat intimidated, said, You call this a commotion? We're just here to receive our rightful compensation. He stated firmly, If you have business, you should have come through the main gate. Why come to the annex? The man stammered, But your grace. He interrupted, I don't want to hear excuses. Decano made a direct decision. To resolve this fairly, I will summon a lawyer. What more could the man say? Thank you, your grace. The guards opened the gate, and he calmly walked in. Decano approached Evangeline. He looked at her. Why did you come out? Startled, she replied, Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back inside. Decano put his arm around her waist. He slowly escorted her back to her room. Evangeline bit her lips softly. Why? Why didn't he say anything? The commotion in front of the Duke's mansion must have embarrassed him, right? Was it because so many people were watching? They walked side by side. She thought to herself, his attitude, not demanding an apology when the Duke's family honor was tarnished, was strange. His concern couldn't possibly stem from kindness. Arriving at her room, Evangeline immediately pulled her hand away from his. Watching the door slowly close, she scoffed inwardly. Right as if, in another room, everyone was whispering amongst themselves that I heard the creditors went to the Duke Test's mansion. Look outside. I'm completely stunned. Decano looked at a group of relatives and cursed inwardly. Oh noisy. The rumors have spread too quickly. He said flatly, You knew about this but didn't do anything. The bespectacled man, a cousin of the late Duke, said, Count Rian, well, that's not important now. He retorted, The important thing is that the Duchess is struggling with debt, isn't it? Hearing this, the man snapped, Duchess? Do you perhaps intend to marry her? Decano smirked. He looked at the glittering jewelry still adorning his relatives and sneered inwardly. When you received and used the items sent from the O'Hara family, you praised them. Now that the Count's assets are gone, you immediately turn your backs. Those were supposedly Tessa's branch family. Truly disappointing. Thinking this, Decano replied calmly, Isn't that obvious? No matter what anyone says, I won't change my mind. I don't care what they say. The only one worthy of becoming the Duchess is Evangeline. His relatives were shocked. What are you saying? Count Rian slammed his hand on the table angrily this is unacceptable. Could it be you're in love with that woman? He continued, Anyone can see that this marriage is detrimental to the Duke's family. For the sake of the family, why don't you cancel the engagement? Decano looked at them as if reading a book. Outwardly, they feigned loyalty to the Duke's family, but inwardly, they were scheming to replace her with someone who would benefit them. The door cracked open slightly. Evangeline stood outside, thinking the branch family of the Tez family has come. Haven't they? Probably because of the broken engagement with me. Inside, a voice echoed, If it's not love, then what other reason is there for your stubbornness? She was stunned by these words. She thought love? Decano with me? Decano replied coldly, I will still marry her. His face was solemn, because there's no woman more convenient than Evangeline. She was shocked. More convenient. The Count chuckled that if that's the reason, you could find someone more suitable. The royal family will also be concerned since this is a matter of the Duke Tez family. Those behind him agreed. That's right, just as Count Rian said. Decano cut them off that I hate complications. This conversation is over. Outside, Evangeline had already left. Evangeline suddenly remembered their first meeting. She had first met Decano at a hunting banquet. He stood there, like a tranquil, handsome man, enjoying the moon and wine. She approached from behind and greeted him. Duke Tez, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Evangeline O'Hara. He politely replied, The pleasure is all mine, Miss O'Hara. Decano swirled the wine in his glass. I've heard a great deal about you, Countess O'Hara. The man and woman gazed at each other silently, fireworks exploding brilliantly behind them. She thought, to others, this might seem like an ordinary, natural encounter, but it feels almost as if it were orchestrated by our families. Although my father isn't interested in hunting, he purchased a membership just to bring me to this banquet, and Decano only reluctantly attended at his mother's urging. She recalled entering the banquet hall on her father's arm, the moment their paths first crossed. That's how we met. Gradually, we began to converse, laughing and talking pleasantly at each meeting. until the day I stepped into the Test ducal family, his hand extended towards mine. She reminisced silently. He never once disappointed me. Evangeline recalled the feeling of their hands clasped together. Was it because of that? Initially, I believed we could share our innermost thoughts, but later, I realized he harbored no feelings for me. I immediately abandoned that dream. Even so, we became engaged. I thought he must have had another reason for choosing me. Those devilish words resurfaced. Because there's no woman more convenient than Evangeline. Evangeline felt her soul leave her body. And that reason was because I'm convenient? Such a trivial reason. She walked aimlessly. This marriage was always a transaction of money and power. She clutched her arm, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Oh, it shouldn't be surprising. The moonlight glinted off the ring on her finger. Even though my family is bankrupt, he still wants to keep me by his side. I thought he saw value in me, in Evangeline O'Hara as a person, but it was all an illusion. With that thought, she slipped the ring off her finger. Placing the ring gently on the table, she murmured, "How pathetic. A product that's lost its value. What right do I have to expect anything?" Evangeline stared at her emotionless reflection in the mirror. In another room, silence reigned. Decano sat alone, his hand diligently writing on paper. The Count's words echoed in his mind. Could it be that you've fallen for that woman? He leaned back with a sigh, setting down his pen and closing his eyes. Love? Preposterous. He thought to himself. As I said, Evangeline O'Hara is convenient. She's elegant, rational, and adept at concealing her emotions. She treats everyone with courtesy. Because of her extensive knowledge, she always makes conversation comfortable. She possesses all the qualities of a Duchess of Test. Therefore, there's no more suitable marriage candidate than Evangeline. Decano slowly opened his eyes. Indeed, it's just a momentary hurt. She'll recover soon enough. She has to, he reassured himself. Michael opened the door and entered. You summoned me, Your Grace? Decano replied, yes. He continued working on a sales contract, speaking as he wrote, auction this for me. Michael looked at the name with a puzzled expression. The Ruka Plains? He responded, selling that will be a significant loss for the family. Perhaps you could reconsider. Decano cut him off to as I say. The most fertile land in the empire, it has always been coveted by many. If put up for auction, it would surely fetch a high price, enough to pay off the debt and still have some left over. He silently made up his mind. Evangeline must absolutely become the Duchess. Therefore, this much was nothing. A few days later, in the Belizer Imperial Palace, a voice rang out. You act as if you won't return. How strange. The woman looked at the man before her. What brings you here, Count Rian? He laughed nervously. Not return? You misunderstand, Your Highness. She, or rather the Emperor of the Belizer Empire's younger sister, Bellona von Belizer, looked impassively at the Count. 3 days before Count Rian met with the princess at Count Rian's mansion. Inside the mansion, there was a loud crash. A vase and inkwell on the table were thrown to the ground, shattering. Along with it came the sound of cursing. Damn, that arrogant brat. It was Count Rian. He gritted his teeth, his face flushed with rage, veins bulging. Does he think the Tez family's current power is solely due to the Tez bloodline? The power that Duke Tez currently holds is thanks to the combined efforts of the branch family members who have protected and maintained it. Yet that brat, ignorant of this, acts all self-important, thinking himself so capable. Count Rian stooped, fuming inwardly. Moreover, he rejected the woman we connected him with. This was our chance to secure our share of the benefits. His face darkened further. Evangeline, I don't like that woman. I think she's just a naive woman spoiled by Count O'Hara. Even though she hasn't officially become the Duchess yet, she acts exactly like the late Duchess. And looks at me just like Decano used to. This can't be allowed. I have to deal with them both at once. That's right, if I involve the Imperial family, even a Tez won't be able to do anything. The very next day, Count Rian went to the Imperial Palace and requested a meeting with Princess Bellona in the late afternoon. Bellona seemed to have sensed something unusual. She asked seriously, so what is it you want? You surely didn't come just for pleasantries, did you? He gave a forced laugh and replied awkwardly, what business? I merely came to greet your highness, as it has been a while since I last saw you. As a member of the Tez family, it is my duty to serve the princess, but I apologize for my inability to do so lately. As you know, the Tez family has been in quite a state of turmoil recently. She replied in surprise. Oh dear, so the rumors of the O'Hara family's bankruptcy are true? At this moment, the only cause Bellona could think of was Evangeline, her sworn enemy. I'm worried about how Duke Tez is holding up. It must be difficult for him to leave Miss O'Hara. for the sake of the family's reputation. Hearing this, Count Rian felt relieved. He rejoiced inwardly. Her attitude is completely different when it comes to Decano. Seizing the opportunity, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, he bowed his head and echoed her sentiment. Indeed, I am also worried. With things as they are, it would be better for the Duke to break off the engagement with that woman, but perhaps he's trying to maintain the relationship for appearance's sake. Bellona paused, taken aback. The Count smirked, a triumphant yet cautious look on his face. Precisely. Contrary to her cold exterior, the princess was known for her fiery temper and relentless pursuit of what she desired. Decano Fontes was no exception. She had pursued him relentlessly at every event he attended. The princess even cried and begged the emperor, her brother, to arrange a marriage with the duke. This is a famous story among the upper class. Unfortunately, the emperor had no intention of giving the duke more power, so he refused his sister's plea. That foolish girl. Even so, Bellona still covets Decano, so the princess is the best pawn to use. If I subtly encourage the idea that she can still get what she wants, she'll deal with Evangeline on her own. Count Rian sneered and said, "That's why, Your Highness. What if we make Miss O'Hara break off the engagement herself?" Bellona was startled at his words and asked anxiously, "What? Will that woman back down so easily? Seeing how she clings to him, I don't think she'll give up easily." Count Rian feigned agreement, then began to manipulate her. Certainly not easily. But isn't she a woman with a lot of pride? If we wound her pride, perhaps she'll leave in a fit of anger. Bellona's face darkened with worry as she grew tense. The next afternoon, in the princess's reception room, Bellona had arranged to meet Evangeline. She began by saying, "I invited you rather abruptly, Miss O'Hara. I should have made an appointment." Evangeline politely replied, "Not at all, Your Highness. In fact, it's fortunate Your Highness summoned me while the Duke is away, as it allows me some time outside." Bellona responded, "I see." Inwardly, she cursed Evangeline with unspeakable words. Is she boasting about being protected by Duke Tez? Be smug while you can, it won't last. She sipped her tea and said sarcastically, "I heard about the O'Hara family. With the Count's accident, you must be very grieved. They haven't even found his body yet." Hearing this, Evangeline paused, a pang of sadness striking her heart. However, she calmly replied, "Yes, we are still searching. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness." Bellona, seeing that Evangeline's reaction wasn't as she'd hoped, wondered to herself, "What? I thought she would be in tears. Why isn't she reacting?" Gnashing her teeth at her inability to provoke Evangeline, she changed the subject. "Actually, I have something to ask you. I'm planning a ball to celebrate the Navy's safe return, but I'm concerned about your situation, Miss O'Hara. Would it be all right if I held a celebratory ball?" Evangeline calmly replied, "Of course, Your Highness." Bellona gestured to a servant while saying, "If you plan to attend, I have something for you." The maid lifted a nearby suitcase and brought it to Evangeline. Bellona said curtly, "Here, take it." The maid opened the suitcase in front of Evangeline, revealing a collection of old-fashioned, outdated dresses that Bellona had previously worn. Evangeline was so shocked she couldn't speak. Bellona put on a sympathetic expression and said mockingly, "I heard you're in a difficult situation, so I thought you might need some help." Evangeline thought to herself in dismay, "These outdated dresses. She want me to wear these?" Bellona explained, "These are dresses I've worn, but I have new ones this year. Don't refuse me. We should help each other in times like these." Bellona gave a sly, scheming smile. "To save face for Miss Evangeline. I won't tell anyone." However, Evangeline only pondered, thinking, "It seems Her Highness wants to humiliate the future Duchess of Tess by making me wear these old clothes." Bellona started to backpedal. "Miss O'Hara, if you misunderstood my meaning." But before she could finish, Evangeline cut her off. "Why would I? Thank you for these dresses. I'll put them to good use." She thought to herself, dealing with this childish provocation is a waste of time. With a sharp turn, she retorted, "And in keeping with Your Highness's noble intentions, I'll also keep this a secret. But should this matter reach other ears, it would surely be the doing of Your Highness's maid. I do hope she's trustworthy." Bellona froze, a flicker of fear in her eyes. Evangeline thought, "I have more pressing matters to attend to than Her Highness." She stood and began to gather her things. "I don't think I can stay any longer. I must be going." She moved away from the tea table, adding one last jab before leaving. "Your Highness's thoughtful concern will forever be etched in my heart." Evangeline curtsied, giving Bellona a chillingly sharp look before turning to leave. Bellona trembled with barely suppressed rage, her teeth clenched. The maid beside her gaped in shock. Bologna slammed her hand on the table, her face contorted with fury. What the hell? How dare she be so impertinent? That evening, in Decano's private room, he held a cigar and questioned her. It seems you went out while I was away. How could I refuse Her Highness's invitation? She replied, meeting his gaze with a calm, emotionless expression. Decano tapped his cigar into the ashtray and changed the subject. That's so? Another thing. The man who chased after you on horseback and waited outside the palace said you disappeared. His brow furrowed, his expression serious. Where did you go? Evangeline recalled the bustling afternoon market. She entered Philip's gem shop, the manager of the O'Hara Trading Company. Philip, take this. She placed a suitcase of old dresses on the counter, startling him. Young mistress, what are these? He opened it to find used gowns. Why have you suddenly brought these dresses? They're too outdated. I can't wear them, she explained, already ripping the gems from the fabric. But the gems will be useful. Philip, still bewildered, asked, what? Where do these come from? He rushed to stop her. Young mistress, wait. If you tear them like that, you'll hurt your hands. Recalling Bologna's insult, Evangeline said with a grimace, they're made for royalty, so the gems aren't cheap. I'm sure they're quite valuable. Philip, concerned by her demeanor, started to say, young mistress. Philip, sell these and use the money to search for my father, she interrupted, holding out the glittering gems, her hands scratched from prying them loose. But the Duke is already having people search everywhere, Philip pointed out. That man doesn't care about finding. I have to go back now. She thought that I'll lie to Decano about what happened today. I'll say I felt a little stifled and went for a walk. Evangeline reasoned with herself. If she mentioned the trading company, she'd have to talk about the dresses and explain how she got them. That spiteful little princess. If there were even a sliver of hope of using her malice to her advantage, Evangeline would gladly take it. But if Decano found out how desperately she was struggling to survive, she would rather die. She returned to the conversation. I apologize for making you worry. He pondered for a moment, then asked, Evangeline, did the princess offend you? Decano likely knew something of Bologna's temperament, which was probably why he asked. He silently considered the situation. That stubborn and arrogant princess. If she summoned Evangeline in these circumstances, it certainly wasn't for pleasantries. Could it be something so terrible she couldn't tell me? He wondered. Evangeline's soft voice broke through his thoughts. And no, nothing happened. He looked up at her. Evangeline stood facing Decano, answering his question. The princess merely invited me to the upcoming palace banquet. His expression remained serious. Unreadable. That all? Evangeline avoided his gaze. Yes, that's all. She spoke, but Decano didn't reply. The atmosphere grew thick with tension. When he remained silent, she turned to leave. If you have nothing else, then I'll be going. Seeing her about to leave like that, he immediately stood up. Decano rushed over to Evangeline and grabbed her wrist. Evangeline instinctively spun around. Duke, she exclaimed. He stared at her, his expression frightening. Now, I finally see your true face. He didn't like resorting to force, but his grip on Evangeline's wrist tightened. He studied her surprised, slightly fearful expression, thinking, if I could peel away your mask, I wouldn't hesitate. Evangeline struggled against his hold, turning slightly to look at him. I can't tonight. Her answer left Decano feeling somewhat deflated. What? Evangeline spoke softly. I'm a little tired today. Next time, please let me know beforehand. He seemed angered, his brow furrowed in annoyance. Oh, you really think I kept you here for that? Evangeline froze, thinking if you wanted to sleep with me, I would have asked you as always. This is frustrating. Evangeline brought her free hand to her face, beginning to sob. I apologize, but today, I really... Decano's voice cut her off. Prepare for the princess's banquet. Her hand trembled, her face filled with fear as she looked at Decano. He calmly analyzed the situation. Yes, you showed emotion. Now I feel like you're truly alive. Attending a normal social gathering is enough to draw attention, let alone a royal banquet where the nobility gathers. For you, it's a difficult decision. So, if you don't want to go to the banquet, you don't have to. But Evangeline's words suddenly interrupted his train of thought. Yes, I will prepare. Even Decano was surprised by her decision. Evangeline pulled her hand free from his grasp. Lowering her hand, she spoke softly. I'll be going now. Decano was taken aback by her demeanor. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, pulling out a small notebook. As expected. He looked at it and muttered softly, completely blank. The next morning, the sun shone brightly throughout the empire. Evangeline finished packing. She hadn't realized time had flown by so fast. The day of the royal banquet had already arrived. It's so suffocating. I feel so uncomfortable, but I can't run away. Evangeline placed a hand on her stomach to reassure herself. You have to smile, Evangeline. Hearing a knock, she called out, come in. Evangeline swayed slightly, but I'm almost ready. Could you help me button the back of my dress? This one, hearing the voice, she turned around in surprise. She was surprised to see Decano Von Test right behind her. She seemed to not have anticipated his sudden appearance. Your Grace. He turned her back around to help her with the buttons. Stand up straight. We'll be late, even if we leave now. She quickly exclaimed. Wait. Decano, expressionless, continued coldly. What's wrong? It's not like I'm seeing it for the first time. Evangeline held her dress, her mind racing. What is he suddenly doing here? I've been trying to avoid him. Why does he have to show up while I'm changing? Decano asked solicitously, could you pull your hair back? It would make it easier for me to button your dress. She softly replied yes. She gently swept her hair aside. Decano's hands slowly buttoned the back of her dress. Finally, he zipped it up. Decano leaned in to look at her and softly complimented, it suits you very well. Receiving the compliment, she lowered her head with a small smile. Thank you, Your Grace. Evangeline admired herself in the mirror, while Decano turned and walked toward something else. He picked up a necklace and said to her, this necklace will suit you. Decano brought the necklace closer to Evangeline that it's too dazzling. Even without it, everyone is already staring at me. He stepped behind her, his voice slightly warm, calling her name, Evangeline. He lowered his voice in her ear. That's something you have to experience once. So go there and make them unable to look at you anymore. He quickly fastened the clasp of the necklace. Evangeline touched the necklace, thinking to herself, I can't believe he said the exact same words as my father. Decano quietly observed her every expression and gesture. He said softly, if you have something to say, say it. But Evangeline denied it, that it's not like that. He offered to follow her wishes, if you don't like it, we can. Evangeline turned around and said decisively, no, I'll go. Then she added softly, I'm ready. The sunset cast an orange hue over the imperial palace. Noisy chatter filled the air. That it's the first time I've seen so many people at the princess's banquet. As expected, imitating the Duke-Tess family's banquet hasn't changed. Actually, isn't there something even more anticipated than the banquet itself? That's right. Will they really come to the banquet? The attendant announced loudly, Duke-Tess and his fiancée, Miss O'Hara, have arrived. Everyone at the banquet turned their attention. In one direction, soft footsteps echoed. It was Evangeline and Decano Von Test, arm in arm, slowly entering the banquet hall. Evangeline, on Decano's arm, walked gracefully inside as the announcement echoed. Duke-Tess and his fiancée, Miss O'Hara, have arrived. Seeing the two of them, everyone stared and began to whisper, Miss O'Hara actually came. After the bankruptcy, isn't this the first time she's attended something like this? They noticed the necklace on her beautiful neck. Look at that necklace, my goodness. Even amidst the chaos, she's still so extravagant. The two continued to stride down the red carpet under countless gazes. Occasionally, a few exclamations rang out. Oh, it seems their relationship is very good. Decano called her name, Evangeline. He leaned close to her ear and said in a low voice, no matter what anyone says, you are still a member of the Tetsi family. He wrapped his arm around Evangeline's waist as a way of intimidation. He whispered in her ear, so don't forget your role. Evangeline just pursed her lips without speaking, a cold expression on her face. She didn't know what had irritated him. She gently pushed Decano and said softly, you don't need to worry. Under his sharp gaze, she expressed her goodwill. I will do everything so that you won't suffer any more harm. She glanced at the people behind them and began to subtly dismiss him. You should go. It seems they are waiting for you, Your Grace. Hearing this, he turned around, but his gaze remained fixed on her. Evangeline looked back, hearing malicious whispers behind her. Good heavens, look at how arrogantly she holds her head high. I was expecting her to dress simply in remorse. But well, it seems the position of Duchess Tess suits her well. Just standing there and not caring about anyone. An older lady sneered, what can you do? Even if she does nothing, Duke Tess will settle her debts. People are even saying he sold the Vuka planes for his fiancée. Hearing these whispers caused her emotions to waver for a moment. The malicious words echoed in her ears. Unbelievable. Wasn't that land the Tess families since the founding of the nation? It's only this chaotic now because of bringing an unsuitable person into the family. Evangeline was bewildered. What are they talking about? Rumors from high society were often inaccurate, but this one mentioned a specific place. She looked at the woman who had mocked her, arms crossed in thought. That woman. is the countess's wife who often participates in auctions, so the possibility of her lying is very low. The woman, holding a fan to cover her mouth, sneered at her. Really, what's this? Is a young lady eavesdropping on our conversation? So what if I am? It's not like you're making things up. The women behind her also covered their mouths, echoing, that's right. Evangeline calmly replied, oh yes. Her tone was so nonchalant that it made the older lady feel uneasy. She frowned and said, it must be true then. People began to notice and whisper amongst themselves. The ladies who had just mocked Evangeline started to act strangely. Why goodness, Mississippi. What kind of tone is that? Yes, this is the princess's banquet. No matter how urgent your situation is, you should still maintain decorum. Evangeline began to speak sarcastically. Those words should be directed at you ladies. You should maintain decorum with me, shouldn't you? The ladies retorted in a hostile tone. What? You're not the Duchess yet. Why should we? Evangeline threatened them. If I, the biggest source of entertainment at this banquet, were to leave early because of you ladies, wouldn't you be in trouble? If you want Her Highness the Princess's banquet to end smoothly, you should strive to keep me here as long as possible, shouldn't you? One of them scowled and shouted, wait a minute. No one here is unaware of my situation. Evangeline held up a hand in front of her chest, cutting the woman off. So, I'm in debt to all of you ladies? While I don't know the exact list of creditors, none of you have ever knocked on the annex's door. So, Evangeline addressed the group of noble women directly, at least at this banquet. I don't have to apologize to any of you. The older noblewoman, humiliated, pursed her lips in anger. Evangeline thought to herself, I haven't done anything wrong here. She turned away, leaving the fuming noblewomen speechless in a one's answering. So I'm losing interest. The woman, not giving up, called out, how can this be? From a side, a man suddenly burst into laughter. Ha! I won the bet. Pay up, pay up. Several others responded, ha! Well, there's nothing we can do. We got to see quite a show. As expected, everyone has their eyes on Miss O'Hara. It's understandable, considering she suddenly appeared and took the Duchess's place. The man who won the bet puffed on his cigar smugly. She's no ordinary woman. She lived with the late Duchess Tetsi, who was known for being strict and meticulous, right? Like a flower blooming on a cliff face. I've been waiting for the day it withers. Having finished speaking, he noticed the atmosphere had shifted. The men in front of him wore grim expressions. What's wrong, everyone? He asked. Before he could finish, he noticed Duke Tess, the subject of his conversation, standing beside him with a cold, unfriendly expression. He looked up in alarm. Why, your grace? Decano turned away without a word. The men sitting there exchanged bewildered glances. One approached Decano and bowed politely. Everyone has been waiting for your arrival, your grace. You know we have no interest in this gathering. We came to see you. The man who had spoken earlier thought in confusion. Didn't he hear? He chuckled, assuming Decano hadn't heard. After you adjusted the interest rates at the central bank, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Decano tapped his cigarette. Yes, that's so. The man continued, oblivious, of course. Not just me, but all the nobles in Rodka. Your grace, I'll have someone bring an ashtray. He pressed his cigarette directly onto the table. No need. Decano spoke as the cigarette scorched the table. Viscount Chloe. I loathe it when others touch what belongs to me. Viscount Chloe's face paled in fear. It's not what you think, your grace. Decano cut him off with a threat that, if this happens again, I won't forgive you, no matter who it is. His face was a mask of disgust and anger. Viscount Chloe cowered. Yes, your grace. Decano closed his eyes, saying nothing more. Just then, an announcement rang out. Her Highness the Princess has arrived. He opened his eyes and looked in one direction. Evangeline was turning on the railing of the staircase. The princess immediately appeared, a beautiful smile gracing her face. Greetings and compliments were showered upon her. Greetings, your highness. You look beautiful today. Meanwhile, Evangeline stood off to the side, lost in thought. Different. She stood alone by the railing behind the door. Evangeline's mind raced with the taunts, making her feel small. The Duke had sold the Rosca Plains through his lawyer. Surely, that money was used to pay off the debt. Bringing an unsuitable person into the house had caused all this chaos. Evangeline thought, Decano sold the Rosca Plains? Really, to pay off my debt. And I didn't even know, yet I resented him, thinking he was cold and cruel. She covered her face. I thought he didn't care about my feelings or my situation. Did he actually care about me? Now, I don't know how to face him. Evangeline quickly wiped away her tears and called out, "One moment, I'll be right there." She opened the door and said, "Please come in." The person before her called out, "Eva." Evangeline's eyes lit up when she saw who it was. She asked, as if she couldn't believe her eyes, "Killian?" Killian appeared, radiating a bright aura, and with a gentle smile, he said softly, "Yes, it's me, Eva." It was Killian Rebel, the fifth son of Earl Rebel. Evangeline asked with a smile, "What are you doing here? I heard there was a warship docked at the port recently. Did you come with it?" Killian smiled. "Yes, that's right. If I had arrived earlier than scheduled, I would have attended your birthday banquet to surprise you." Evangeline was stunned. "My birthday?" The image of her kind father waving to her from a ship appeared in her mind. Noticing her troubled expression, Killian asked, "What's wrong, Eva?" Evangeline was distracted. "It's just me. Remembering my father because of something like this. What should I do?" She forced a smile that it's nothing. "More importantly, I'm so glad you arrived safely." Killian said, "Eva, on my way here, I heard about Earl O'Hara. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you during such a difficult time. You must be heartbroken. Are you all right now?" Evangeline looked up at Killian. So this is what I was hoping to hear. Evangeline smiled genuinely that I'm better now. Thank you for your concern. Not having to hide my feelings, it's such a relief. Evangeline began to reminisce. The first time I met Killian was when I was about 10 years old in Edith, a territory on the eastern continent. A hand offered me a glass of sweet iced water. "Do you want some? It's quite hot in Edith, so you must be tired." "Whenever I'm tired like you, I drink this." Evangeline, who had been sitting, looked over and said, "Thank you." She reached out and took the glass. Killian is the son of Earl Rebel, the governor of Edith. Because I couldn't adjust to the heat in Edith, he often took care of me. Evangeline took a sip and exclaimed with a smile, "Delicious." Back then, we were the best of friends. After I returned to my country, Killian joined the Navy, and I thought it would be difficult to see him again. "I'm so happy to see you like this, Killian." Evangeline didn't notice Decano looking up at her from below. She continued talking to Killian. "It's so good to see you again, Killian." He pressed his lips together, his face filled with displeasure. Just then, the princess arrived and said, "Your Grace, you're here." She touched her face shyly that I was so surprised to learn that your Grace was also attending my banquet. Frankly, Miss O'Hara's presence at this banquet is a disgrace, so I assumed His Grace would be absent. Decano spoke matter-of-factly. Bearing the gazes of others is her own responsibility. The princess responded tactfully, "Indeed, it should be. Judging by his absence, His Grace doesn't seem to be on that woman's side." She feigned sympathy that I agree with His Grace's sentiment. Resolving one's own problems is the duty of a noble. Bellona noticed the Duke's gaze wasn't on her. But where was he looking? She followed Decano's line of sight. There was no one on the second floor. When Bellona looked back, she saw the Duke had crushed the glass in his hand. She asked, "Your Grace, are you all right?" Decano replied, "My apologies, Princess. It seems I applied a bit too much force. If you'll permit me, shall we continue our conversation? Your Highness was speaking about the duty of a noble, weren't you?" Elsewhere, Evangeline quietly strolled alone through the palace. It's difficult to find Decano after the princess's banquet. Is it because I'm a burden to him? For some reason, I feel like Decano's attitude has become colder than before. After my father went missing after that stormy day, I've been living for myself, so paying attention to his attitude has become second nature. Is this what Decano wants? Not being able to understand his thoughts leaves me feeling uneasy. But if he's shedding his responsibilities by using the Duke's family assets, Evangeline, clench her fist. I can't keep avoiding him like this. This time, I'll try talking to him first. Decano was working when he lifted his teacup and said, "Evangeline, you came to see me? That's unusual." Evangeline replied, "I have something I want to talk about." Decano responded, "Have a seat first." A servant approached Evangeline and said, "I'll pour you some tea." She felt unaccustomed and anxious, thinking, it's been a while since I've seen Decano privately, and it's been a while since I've been served by someone. This situation is so strange. Evangeline shakily held her teacup. It seems your Grace has been very busy lately. She felt tense, thinking, what should I do? I can't think straight because I'm so nervous. He's someone whose schedule is planned down to the minute. Decano's gaze softened that I don't think that's what you want to talk about. Evangeline stood up. This man really hates being bothered. I'll just come back another time. She said, "No, seeing that you're well, I'll be heading back now." Decano took Evangeline's hand, calling her name Evangeline. He said, "You're trembling." Evangeline calmly sat back down. "I apologize. I'm not in any pain. I don't know why I'm like this. Decano said, sit for a bit longer before you go. She finally looked up. She assessed him. His expression and way of speaking are the same as usual. He's not angry, nor is he sympathetic. But strangely, I feel relieved. It seems coming here was the right decision. Evangeline and Decano sat in the room. She pulled her hand away from his. Evangeline bowed her head and said, I'm all right now. Thank you for your concern. Decano said coldly, it's good that you're all right. Evangeline casually picked up her teacup and inquired, will you be late tomorrow as well? Decano replied, perhaps. I plan to visit His Majesty, as his schedule is often unpredictable. Evangeline seriously discussed, if we go see His Majesty, this time he'll probably also talk about the landscaping project. I overheard some ladies at Her Highness's banquet discussing it. Although it's a small-scale project, it's commissioned by the royal family, so it seems many nobles want to win the bid. Decano replied, that's right, they'll soon start reviewing the applicants. Evangeline said, I'm really looking forward to seeing which family will get the project and redecorate the streets. Inwardly, she thought, how long has it been since we've talked so comfortably like this? It's like old times, right? We used to talk directly like this, and Evangeline reminisced about a time when they were strolling and a gust of wind made her shiver from the cold. Decano had taken her hand in concern, saying, you seem very cold. Let's go inside. Gradually closing the distance between them, even though we weren't married yet, we consummated our relationship. It wasn't a bad relationship. Even though our relationship is awkward now, if I make an effort like this, I can mend things between us. Evangeline said to the Duke, since you mentioned you'll be late, there's something I wanted to ask. Could I invite a guest to the mansion? Actually, I ran into an old friend at the banquet. It's been so long since we last saw each other, so I want to talk more. I thought it would be better to invite them here rather than going out. Decano chuckled coldly. That man said he wanted to see where you live. Evangeline faltered slightly, but replied, well, no, Corian didn't want that. It was me. Decano scoffed. You, the soon-to-be Duchess, are reminiscing about the name of a common naval officer? It seems the two of you are quite close. Evangeline hurriedly explained. What are you talking about? Corian is just a friend. He was the only one who talked to me at the banquet. Decano frowned. You think that man talked to you out of kindness? You're still so naive. Evangeline felt a pang of hurt. His tone is no different than usual, but why does it bother me so much? She said, right? Evangeline lifted her teacup. That you're right. I'm being immature. I apologize for saying such foolish things. Wait, Evangeline. She coldly inclined her head and said, I won't invite any guests. You don't have to worry. Now, if you'll excuse me. The way back to her room felt incredibly empty. Evangeline walked with a heavy heart. Even though I've lost all my honor and fortune, he suspects me, she thought, the one who has strived for years to fulfill the duties of a duchess, of having a secret affair with my friend. Evangeline clutched her skirt and hurried away. I thought if I tried, we could live together peacefully. It was all just my wishful thinking. Evangeline pushed the door open forcefully. She went into her room and gripped the window frame. What have I devoted my entire youth to in this prison-like place? A place where no one is on my side. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and a voice called out, Miss, may I come in? Evangeline finally turned around. The maid set the soup down and inquired, You look unwell, Mississippi. I brought you some hot soup and tea. Evangeline cut her off. Was it the Duke who sent you? Startled, the maid replied, Yes. Miss this. Evangeline turned her back to the maid. I don't want to eat. She sat down to write a letter. Evangeline held out the letter. Send this to 5 Melk Avenue for Maine. The maid answered, Yes, Mississippi. As the maid left, Evangeline thought, that letter will reach Decano as well, saving me the trouble of sending a separate message to cancel our meeting. Evangeline dragged her feet. She walked to the bed. Exhausted and burdened, Evangeline collapsed face down. The strange atmosphere, being ostracized because of my family's downfall, unable to see my old friend, and even the man who is supposed to be my husband misunderstanding me so unreasonably. Yet, I no longer feel angry. Evangeline thought sadly, perhaps I've hit rock bottom. She remembered her father's words as he stroked her head. Evangeline, even in the worst situation, don't give up. You've hit bottom. Now you must rise above it. Her father's warm smile flickered in her memory. Curling up, she wondered, Father, when will I be able to rise above this? The moonlit night was peaceful, with occasional gusts of wind rustling through the trees. A maid approached, holding a candle in one hand and a chest in the other. She gently shook Evangeline. Miss, wake up. Evangeline stirred and asked, Is the Duke back? The maid replied, Not yet. I'm here to relay a message. The maid presented the chest. A visitor from the trading company came. He said he couldn't trust anyone under the Duke's command, so he insisted I deliver this directly to you. He said it's something you requested. Evangeline accepted it, wondering, did Philip send this to me? Her hands trembled as she opened it. If it's what I requested, could it be? Upon seeing the contents, Evangeline covered her mouth, tears welling up. Inside the box were a mud-stained shoe and a button she recognized, the tragic remnants of her father. Decano sat in his luxurious chair, holding a document containing the investigation's findings. It read, "Scene of Earl O'Hara's incident. No survivors reported. Wreckage of the sunken ship has been found, but no guarantee of belongings. The situation is not optimistic. Do not expect much." Decano's expression remained unsurprised, just as I predicted. It's not easy to survive such an incident. Earl O'Hara can be considered deceased. Without a second thought, he tossed the paper into the fireplace. Decano moved on to other matters, and next, the image of Michael respectfully presenting Evangeline's letter and reporting surfaced in his mind. "Your Grace, Miss O'Hara requested we deliver this letter to 50 Melk Avenue." The flashback ended, and he held the letter in his hand, suspicion rising. This is the letter Evangeline wanted to send. If it's to 50 Melk Avenue, Decano stopped speculating and began to read the letter intently. He read every line. "Dear Kyrian, due to unforeseen circumstances, I may not be able to keep my previous promise. I will contact you soon. Wait for me. I hope you are well, and remember to eat properly." Jealousy flared within Decano, as expected. It's addressed to that so-called friend. He immediately remembered the moment he took her hand. Even though I only held it for a moment, I could feel she'd gotten thinner. For someone so frail to worry about the health of a robust naval officer, it's truly laughable. He stood up from his luxurious chair, the letter in his hand. Without hesitation, he tossed it into the fireplace. The flames were like Decano's feelings, like Evangeline's. "From the moment I chose you to be my Duchess, every action of yours has been tied to the test name. There's no reason you shouldn't understand its significance. From a moment I was born into the Test family, my fate was sealed. I was granted wealth and prestige, but with them came duties and rules I was obligated to follow. Who I spoke to, where I went, how many times I smiled, even changes in my noble rank. I've been suffocated by that weight since I was young. Then, before I knew it, those rules and duties became me. Even without the previous Duke test, I can still stand firm. As a member of the Test family, I've become someone who only desires prosperity for the family and the empire." He remembered their first encounter. "Then I met you. The perfect person to become a duchess, the only one who could understand this. Burden." The letter burned to ashes, concluding his train of thought. That's what I thought. Decano was lost in his thoughts when his subordinate, Michael, entered. "Your Grace, I've brought the list you requested." Among the guests at the party that day, these are the ones who spoke with Miss O'Hara. Only the one considered her friend showed goodwill, the rest did not. As you predicted, they're on Her Highness the Princess's side. Hearing this, Decano couldn't help but recall the malicious whispers he'd heard at the party. "Look at how she holds her head high. You'd think she dressed simply out of remorse." Michael also uncovered some juicy gossip. "Furthermore, I heard the nobles are bidding on the upcoming landscaping project, and the one directly overseeing it is Her Highness the Princess." After presenting his findings, he offered his own conjecture. Perhaps the nobles think that by provoking Miss O'Hara, they can win the bid and gain favor with the princess. Decano interrupted Michael. "When does His Majesty begin his trip to the east?" Taken aback by the seemingly unrelated question, he stammered, "Yes, in 3 days, Your Grace." Decano declared decisively. "Then the reward for accompanying him on this trip will be the rights to the landscaping project." Elsewhere, Evangeline's back conveyed a deep sadness. Father is gone. It's time to let go of hope and regret. She wandered aimlessly, clutching a wooden box, her heart heavy as father's daughter. "The last thing I must do," she emphasized an address in her mind, likely Earl O'Hara's final resting place. Number 30, Row F, Bathylawn Avenue. "I've decided Father's remains will be placed in the Slum District Cemetery, in a plot about 6.6 square meters. Anyone who sees it will think me unfilial, but it's a place where few will notice, so he can rest peacefully there. A grave, even a humble one, is better than burying him in my heart." Evangeline couldn't help but feel heartbroken thinking about her father. Father traveled all over and met countless people. But in the end, I can't expect anyone to be present at his funeral. The agonizing pain in her heart made her utter each word bitterly The death of someone who lost everything is truly lonely. The sound of conversation outside momentarily interrupted her thoughts. His Grace's luggage is over there. Hey, leave it alone. Hearing someone mention Decano, a glimmer of hope flickered within Evangeline. If it's the Duke, the one who sold the Rosca planes, passed down through generations of the Test family to pay off my debts. Would it be all right to ask him? I have a feeling that if Father knew I wasn't alone, he would pass away peacefully. Thinking of this, she quickly ran out of the room, causing the servant to worry. Miss O'Hara, is something the matter at the main building? You can't just barge in like this. I can. She ran quickly towards her fiancé, calling out and successfully catching his attention. Decano. He turned his head, seeing her running towards him, and called her name with a hint of suspicion. Evangeline. He didn't keep her waiting, approaching and kindly asking, "What's the matter?" She didn't hesitate to reply, immediately saying, "I have something I want to ask you. Next Friday, do you have any time? There's something I want to do with you that day." She spoke urgently, secretly hoping, if I say it's for the funeral, I don't know what kind of rumors the servants will spread. Please, just this one request. Her hopes were dashed by Decano's refusal. I'm sorry, but that day is not possible. Starting today, I will be escorting His Majesty on a trip for about a week. She choked back a sob and hesitantly asked, "Do you absolutely have to go?" Unfortunately, he seemed oblivious to her pleading eyes and casually replied, "Of course," as if a matter concerning the royal family. Decano didn't fail to notice the scrutiny of the surrounding crowd. There are too many people here. Prolonging this conversation wouldn't be good. He quickly made a request, "Go and rest for now. If I'm lucky enough to return in time, I'll come find you then." She grasped his sleeve as if trying to hold him back. Wait. Evangeline's action made him stop and turn back to look at her. She pleaded earnestly, Bethethron Avenue. "If you make it back in time, please come there. This is the first time, and also the last time I'll ask you this. If you listen to this request, I will spend the rest of my life living according to your wishes." Her tearful pleas softened his heart, while also making him incredibly perplexed. Evangeline, why is she being so stubborn today? What will happen if the servants see her like this and spread rumors? Her voice continued to echo, Decano. He removed her hand from his sleeve, maintaining his indifferent demeanor. Go back for now. He turned and walked away, but still gently affirmed, "I'll remember this." Decano was in an extremely difficult position, caught between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't arbitrarily adjust his schedule with His Majesty, nor could he let others see this soft side of him, that if you decided to bear the Test name, you'll surely understand me. At the west entrance of the Test Duke's Annex building, a black carriage slowly approached. The guards quickly stopped the vehicle. "Stop, please. You cannot go out." Being stopped by the guards, Evangeline, sitting inside the carriage, wasn't angry at all. She stepped out of the carriage and slowly approached. "Why?" A guard reported, "The Annex building's entrance has been blocked off. Please return." She replied, "The Annex building is the Duchess's property, passed down through generations. The Duchess decides everything related to this land. Withdraw your spears and open the gate." The guard still tried to explain, "But you are not yet married." Evangeline cut the young man off. "Then you should let me out all the more." Her words were sharp as a knife. "Yes, you say. I have no relation to this family." The two guards looked at each other in confusion. "What now?" his colleague stammered. "But His Grace, the Duke." She seemed to understand. Oh, that's the problem? His Grace knows I'm going out. Rest assured, open the gate." Hearing this, the two hesitantly replied, "Very well." Then, the block gate was opened. Evangeline returned to the carriage, thinking to herself, "I told Decano beforehand, so going out like this should be fine. At least this time, no one can stop me." The carriage quickly proceeded outwards. She murmured, "Because today is my father's funeral." A moment later, in a desolate area where there were only graves and solitude, Philip was incredibly surprised to hear the sound of hooves approaching from afar. He ran towards the carriage. "Young mistress." Evangeline got out, holding a small box. "Philip, it's been a while." He supported the young woman before him, his heart aching in the time we haven't met. Young mistress seems to have grown much thinner. She set foot on the grass and slowly said, "I'm all right." More importantly, she looked at the place in front of her. This place, Philip reassured her, it's where those without relatives are usually buried. No one would think the Earl's grave would be placed here. Evangeline thought to herself, "That's right. If it's here, the creditors won't be able to find it." She then clutched the small box in her arms tighter. "Lead me to Father's place." "Philip." The two walked deeper inside. Philip stopped. "It's here, young mistress." She looked at the spot, her breath slightly ragged. They stood before a small hole in the ground. Philip spoke. Before you arrived, I already dug the grave. She bent down and picked up a handful of earth. Evangeline rubbed the soil to feel it, cold and damp. From father, I learned how to recognize good soil through its texture. The image of her father explaining about the earth suddenly appeared. Good or bad soil, you could tell just by looking at its texture. It must be land that receives enough sunlight, moderate rainfall, and is beneficial for life. Evangeline recalled, her heart aching. If I could, I would also want to take father to such a sunny and warm place. Father, I'm sorry. Philip looked at the gloomy sky worriedly. Young mistress, I think we must hurry. It's about to rain. If it rains, it will be difficult for us to bury him properly. Hearing this, she quickly opened the small box. I'll do it right away. It'll only take a moment. He watched her wrap the black string around her wrist and stammered, Young mistress, isn't that the Earl's shoelace? Evangeline held out the box containing her father's shoe. I want to keep something of father's. Here, bury it. Philip jumped down and placed the box in the grave. The sound of falling dirt rustled as the grave was gradually filled, but she could only watch her father's belongings gradually disappear beneath the earth, her heart aching. Her hand traced the raised letters engraved on the tombstone, 1077 to 1128, with all her love and respect for her wonderful father. Evangeline lifted her skirt and walked towards the mound of earth. Thank you, Philip. You can go back now. He wiped his sweat and looked at his young mistress. Yes, but aren't you coming back, young mistress? She softly replied, Yes, I'll stay a little longer. As night fell, the crows in the cemetery had also awakened. Before her father's grave, she stood silently, her figure lonely and solitary. She whispered, Father, you loved sailing around the world, didn't you? A raindrop landed on her hand, and Evangeline quickly shielded the string on her hand from getting wet. She silently prayed, Father, please leave the traces of your life here and depart freely with this rainwater. The rain grew heavier, but she remained standing silently in the downpour. Raindrops splattered on the dark night road. Water dripped down her chin, and it was unclear whether it was rainwater or tears. Evangeline murmured, Father, don't worry about me, because I have him by my side now. She recalled the moment she clung to his coat. Perhaps he will come here today, because I asked him to. Her tears mingled with the rain, her voice trembling, but she still forced a smile. Don't worry about me, and rest in peace, Father. Even without you, I will live bravely and strongly. The weather turned into a thunderstorm, with thunder and lightning crashing. Horses galloped. In the desolate cemetery at night, the only sound was the rain. Evangeline, for who knows how long, stood there silently, unmoving. A carriage stopped before a lamppost. Someone slowly approached. Hearing the sound, her heart fluttered. This footstep. Could it be? Despite her flowing tears, Evangeline suddenly turned around. Decano, under the rain. He held an umbrella and walked towards her. She thought to herself, he really came. Decano called the name of the woman before him. Evangeline. A wave of warmth enveloped her. She smiled happily. Thank you for coming. In the northernmost mining city of the eastern region, then BOC, everyone sat at the dining table, chatting cheerfully. The lord of MBOC, Marquis Bandin, said cheerfully, I truly am a lucky man. Not only did I discover a gemstone mine in my territory, but I also have the opportunity to meet your majesty like this. Poking at the meat on his plate, the other man replied, let's see. Emperor of the Beleth Empire, Aiden von Beleth. He continued humbly, it seems to me that you are more welcoming to the person beside me. What do you think, Ductesse? Decano slowly wiped his mouth and said, not necessarily. Aiden leaned in and whispered to him, don't be so stiff. Pay some attention to her. Making her worry like this, don't you feel any pity? At the same time, Herma shyly looked away. Decano slowly spoke, Your Majesty, I already have someone I intend to marry. Aiden chuckled and replied, Haha, I know. Raising his glass of wine, he continued, I'm just joking, relax. Decano also raised his glass, his face grim as he thought, allowing his daughter to appear here like this. It seems the rumors in the capital have reached even this far. At this moment, Marquis Bandin turned to his side and softly gestured. Herma, bring out what I told you about. She nodded in understanding. Yes, father. The Duchess's position might soon be vacant. Looking towards Herma, Aiden thought to himself, that's an enticing rumor for anyone, and I don't want to look for anyone else. Having something to watch on this trip is quite interesting, isn't it? Thinking this, he cheerfully enjoyed the scenery. Actually, Duke Tez's recent actions haven't been normal at all. Duke Tez, known for his sharp mind, is planning a disadvantageous marriage. Despite accompanying me on this trip, he hasn't made any grand requests, only accepting the small landscaping project that Bologna is in charge of. Because of the adjusted conditions, the princess is angry. But Aiden recalled Bologna angrily questioning him before. "Your Highness, where did this come from?" He continued his train of thought. "If I receive help at such a small price, I should be grateful." Returning to the present, he idly wondered, "I wonder how Miss O'Hara is doing these days? It's almost the weekend, and she can't go anywhere. She must be bored." Those creditors. Hearing Aiden, Decano's face darkened as he muttered, "Is it the weekend already?" Aiden casually repeated, It's Friday, so it's almost the weekend." Decano recalled Evangeline's earnest plea. "Next Friday, do you have time? That day, I have something I must do with you. This trip is taking longer than I thought. If we depart early tomorrow morning, we can return to the capital by the afternoon." Aiden glanced at Decano and teased, "You want to go back already? No regrets? There must be something more urgent than completing our state visit that I don't know about." Decano remained silent. Seeing Herma return, Aiden spoke up, Miss Herma, you've arrived at the perfect time." Bandin, looking at the wooden box in his daughter's hands, smiled and said, "Your Majesty, as a token of gratitude for this visit, I have prepared a gift. These are the first stones we mined from the new mineral deposit." Aiden carefully observed the gemstones and calmly replied, "I like them very much. These stones are rare, even in the capital." Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a particular stone. "What is this?" he asked curiously, pointing to the one emitting a faint, dark light. Van Den explained, That's Kaliya's ore. It's still in its raw, unprocessed state, which is why it has that faint, dark glow." Herma added, "Kaliya's ore has become very popular among noble women recently, as it's even harder to find than ordinary diamonds." Decano stepped forward, puzzled if it's raw or they wouldn't know what's inside. "Why is it so popular?" Herma, startled, explained, because Kaliya's carries a special meaning. Like this, or where the inside cannot be seen, two people may not understand each other at first. But if they spend their lives together, they will discover each other's true value. It's often given as a proposal gift. After hearing this, Decano fell silent for a moment. Then, he turned to Aiden and firmly stated, "Your Majesty, I will purchase that ore." Aiden waved his hand dismissively, "No need. I'll give it to you. Instead, stay here for another day." Elsewhere, dark clouds filled the sky, and a heavy downpour began. Under the rain, Evangeline, with tears streaming down her pitifully tear-stained cheeks, said, "Thank you for coming." Kyrian, holding an umbrella, called out in a low voice, "Eva, it's me." Realizing it wasn't the person she was waiting for, she froze for a moment. Kyrian returned to his serious demeanor as she coldly said, "I didn't expect you to come all the way here. How did you know I was here?" Tilting the umbrella towards Evangeline, he explained, "I found it strange when you suddenly canceled our last appointment. So I sent someone to the Duke's estate to see if anything had happened to you. But they said you went out today. So I rushed to the merchant company, where I met Philip and heard you were here." Evangeline's expression softened. "Oh, that's what happened. In the end, he didn't come. As expected, my request was too much for him." Though saddened, she couldn't show her emotions and could only force a smile for this old friend, also the only visitor to her father's funeral. She gave a strained smile. "Thank you for coming. Father would be very happy." "Yes, I'm sure he would." Kyrian placed a hand on her shoulder and asked with concern, "Evangeline, you don't look well. You're trembling. Come on, get into my carriage." A moment later, inside the large carriage. Inside, Evangeline silently dried her hair, listening to Kyrian's question. "How long have you been standing in the rain?" Wearily touching her forehead, he continued, "This is Count O'Hara's funeral, and your fiancé. How could he leave you here alone?" Evangeline slowly spoke, "I'm sorry for worrying you, Kyrian." Kyrian immediately became flustered and exclaimed, "I didn't mean it like that. I was just angry that he abandoned you like this. That's why I said that. I'm sorry. More importantly, you need to see a doctor immediately." She interrupted him, her voice filled with sadness. "Kyrian, I want to stay here a little longer." His brows furrowed in frustration. "Good heavens, do you even know your current condition?" Evangeline continued, "Kyrian, this is the last time." Kyrian looked bewildered. What do you mean, Eva?" She looked down, her face expressionless. "Even though it's late, maybe he'll come to me." Gazing quietly out of the carriage, Evangeline said resolutely, "I'll wait for him one last time. To recognize good land, my father waited in that place for half a day. Is it the same as waiting for someone?" Under the rain, the carriage continued on its way. Decano sat inside, his face pensive as he looked out, lost in thought. It's already Friday, the day Evangeline mentioned, but it's also getting dark. He placed his hand on the box beside him, gently gripping it. Even so, I've prepared a gift, so it should be fine. He opened the box, revealing a shimmering purple gemstone inside. Decano held it in his hand, staring at it. He recalled Herma's words. Just like this gemstone, you can't see inside. You two don't know much about each other yet, but if you spend your whole lives together, you'll see each other's true value. No lady would dislike receiving this gift. The image of a gentle Evangeline appeared in his mind, and then Herma's last words, especially the part about the Duke, echoed in his thoughts. Decano had thought a lot about those words. A proposal? The marriage between Evangeline and me was a tacitly decided matter. If she were to live in the annex, the place designated for the Duchess, she probably wouldn't object to that decision. Since Evangeline O'Hara becoming Evangeline Vontes was a foregone conclusion, I've never felt the need to formally propose to her. He clenched the gem in his hand. Even so, to obtain this stone, I accepted the Emperor's offer. Thinking of Evangeline happily holding the gem he gave her, he mused, because I thought that, upon receiving it, her expression might be different than usual. Decano's face slightly frowned. What is it today that has Evangeline in such a hurry? His expression remained pensive, thinking that worrying about the past wouldn't change anything. I had a prior appointment with Her Majesty, and I've also prepared a gift to appease her. Sitting in the carriage, he continued to ponder these things. Evangeline will surely understand. When he stepped out, the rain was still falling. Michael held an umbrella for Decano, who looked at the people before him and asked, "What's the matter?" Philip, fearful, bowed low and stammered, "Teach that I apologize, master." Slightly irritated by what he heard, he spoke sternly. "Steward, must I ask you again? Get straight to the point." Philip spoke fearfully. "Miss O'Hara," standing before Decano, he was sweating profusely, "has gone missing, sir." Philip continued, "This morning, Miss O'Hara went out, but hasn't returned. So, we've searched everywhere she might have gone." Decano replied, "I see." Philip continued, "The others are just as frightened. No one knows where the soon-to-be mistress of the Vontes estate has gone, and everyone is in a panic. Is it too late?" At that moment, Michael suddenly spoke. "Your Grace, shouldn't we prioritize searching for Miss O'Hara? If rumors of her disappearance spread." Decano calmly replied, "All right, I think I know where she is." Michael, confused, responded, "Yes." Michael's face was clearly astonished. Decano glanced at him. The Barthez Plantation Cemetery. The rain continued to fall, the sound of horse hooves echoing on the ground. Decano rode through the rain, then stopped his horse. He glanced down, raindrops clinging to his face. In the gloomy scene, he thought to himself, "This is the cemetery." He looked directly inside and ordered, "Find me the most secluded and least noticeable newly built grave. Don't bother looking at the name on the headstone." Deeper inside, old, weathered graves lay scattered. A voice called out, "Your Grace, I found it." Decano and Michael turned to look. A man held up a wooden tablet. "The grave matches your description, and this is the marker." He then handed it to Decano. Decano took it and examined it. He gave a dark chuckle. "Huh, so you came here today for this? Going through all this trouble for a grave without a body." Suddenly, a shout rang out. "I told you I didn't steal anything." Michael looked toward the sound in surprise, and another voice spoke. "Shut up, do you know who this is?" An old man was dragged out, looking frightened. "I'm just a vagrant. Why are you arresting me like this?" He abruptly stopped talking when he saw the person in front of him. Decano stared straight at him, his face expressionless. The man's face was extremely tense, and the person behind him held him tightly and said, "Your Grace, this man boasts that he knows everything about this road. I thought you might want to question him." The man stammered, "What are you looking for?" Decano's eyes glanced at him. Then he said, "A woman impossible to forget after seeing her once. Anything you remember about her, tell me everything." At the villa, the outside was dark due to nightfall. Inside, the lights were on, making it cozy. A voice called out, "Summon a skilled physician from nearby." Kyrian stood at the door talking to the butler, who said hesitantly, "But master." Before he could finish his sentence, Kyrian replied, "Shoo, no one saw anything tonight." He put a finger to his lips. "I trust you understand." The butler replied, "Yes, sir." Kyrian closed the door and looked back. Someone exclaimed, "Eva." She was lying on the bed, fast asleep. Kyrian slowly approached. "How have you been?" He reached out and stroked a lock of her hair. Suddenly, he flinched. A noise echoed, and he looked back fearfully. Kirian quickly walked back towards the door. That IT sounds like there's something outside. It's late. Who's making all that noise? He opened the door and spoke before seeing the person in front of him. I apologize, but the patient is sleeping. Please be quiet. The other person quickly asked, who's sleeping? The voice sounded familiar. Kirian looked up, breaking out in a cold sweat. Decano looked at him, his gaze chillingly cold. He whispered, Duke Tez. Decano asked again, who's sleeping? Kirian was flustered by his appearance and hesitantly said, Duke Tez, what are you doing here? Decano's soldiers were holding back the rebel family's men, who were grumbling in discontent, saying, why are you doing this to our master? Even if you were the Duke, barging in at this hour. Kirian thought to himself, he planned this from the beginning, didn't he? Decano lost his patience and said bluntly, I didn't come here to talk to you. Where's Evangeline? Kirian scoffed internally. You weren't there when Eva needed you, and now you come looking for her. He retorted without yielding, Your Grace, this is the property of the rebel family. Please maintain decorum and approach us through proper channels. Decano stepped forward and retorted, You're the one who needs to maintain decorum. Kirian froze. What are you saying? Decano began to use his words to overpower him. But aren't you the one who casually brought a betrothed woman back to his home? You should be grateful you haven't gotten into trouble yet. If you're not going to take me to her, then step aside. Kirian questioned him. There's no point in denying it. So, I just want to ask one thing. Eva was nearly exhausted from being in the rain for so long. While I was calling for a physician, what were you doing? Decano coldly warned, Captain Kirian Rebel, are you planning to interfere with your superior's schedule? If this is a matter concerning the Emperor, can you handle it? It seems you're the one who doesn't know his place. Kirian loudly criticized, Your Grace. Decano challenged him. If you want to handle this according to military law, then go ahead. He clenched his fists, trembling with anger. Kirian conceded defeat, extending his hand that I'll lead the way. He bowed and invited Decano inside. Decano took hold of the doorknob and opened the door. Light seeped through the crack in the door, illuminating Evangeline's sleeping face. Seeing her, Kirian said, It's a good thing this is the living room. Kirian didn't understand Decano's reply yes. Decano gave him a chilling look. If it were the bedroom, you'd be dead. Birds chirped, and the harbor was crowded with boats. Mythical animals lined the streets. Edith used to be the richest city in the eastern continent. A small, radiant Evangeline called out, Father! She waved with a bright smile and said loudly, Come here quickly. Because of your work, Edith is a place I frequently visit. I've always considered it my hometown. A pair of legs approached, and a voice said, Evangeline, be careful. He adjusted her hat, gently concerned. Wear your hat properly. Your neck is all red from the sun. Whenever the intense sunlight and stifling air made my cheeks flush, I felt like I had just finished a long journey and returned home. So hot like back then. The fever made her delirious, causing her to recall old memories. Evangeline awoke from her delirium and looked up at the unfamiliar ceiling. She thought, where is this? This isn't my room. Decano approached and asked, You're awake? Seeing him, she was startled. Evangeline flinched. She quickly sat up, stammering, Why am I in the Duke's bedroom? He reassured her, Calm down, Evangeline. You shouldn't be sitting up yet. Decano looked at her and said, According to the attending physician, you've overexerted yourself. He expressed his concern. Your room in the annex is too drafty. It will be better for you to stay here for a while. Evangeline protested, But we're not married yet. I can't stay in the Duke's bedroom. He replied, We'll definitely have a wedding ceremony. You don't need to worry. She was surprised by his answer, thinking a wedding. Evangeline hesitantly replied, Is that so? She thought to herself, Come to think of it, the last memory I have is being with Kirian. Did he bring me back to the mansion? Evangeline was about to ask, then Kirian, but Decano interrupted. If it's about that Navy captain, I'll handle it. You worry about your health. Clutching the blanket, she thought Decano did something to Kirian. In the end, everything is going according to his plan. He's the type who needs to control everything to be satisfied. Like confining me to this bedroom. She tried to suppress her emotions. That's the truth, I realized while waiting for him in the rain. To him, his duties as Duke are what matters most, in which I don't exist. But I just wish this once he would prioritize me. As someone who will spend the rest of my life with him, I was hoping he would play the role of a husband, just this once. Evangeline thought he couldn't even come to see me, not even an apology. Instead, he wants to confine me as if it's the most natural thing. She gripped the curtains for support. She said, I'll get up now. The lingering fever still made her sweat profusely. She quickly lost her strength and collapsed, taking Decano by. Surprise. He caught her in his arms, exclaiming in shock, Evangeline. Decano anxiously supported her shoulders. He said urgently, what are you doing suddenly standing up? I told you to rest. What if you had fallen? His grip on her shoulders made Evangeline tremble. She said, let go. Decano sensed something was off. He asked what? She calmly replied, I'm fine. Let go of me. He noticed her distance. Why? Are you uncomfortable with me? He gently stroked a strand of her hair. Evangeline flinched at this intimate gesture. She replied, no. Decano continued, then what's the matter? Looking at his arm, she hesitated. It's just, I think I've changed. Her answer made him pause for a few seconds as he tied her corset. Evangeline said impassively, being in the same situation, yet feeling differently than before. I think I've changed. Decano tried to suppress his emotions. He acted as if he didn't understand her. Yes, that's so? Then just change. His attitude confused Evangeline. Your Grace. Decano embraced her tightly, feigning affection. This much I can endure. His words left Evangeline feeling powerless. She pushed him away. I don't know if you can, but I think you won't. Withdrawing all her affection, Evangeline took his hand, looked at him, and said, let's stop this now. Decano looked at her thoughtfully. He wondered, stop what? He called her Evangeline. She continued, I think I'm not the right person for the Duke. Evangeline mustered all her courage and continued, let's call off the engagement. Decano was shocked to hear her suggestion. He thought, what? Angrily, he clenched his fist. Marriage, so easily discarded by you. Evangeline looked at him and said, initially, I wanted to maintain our relationship until the end, but she hesitated. Now, I'm no longer confident. Decano silently looked at her. He turned away, dismissing her words. Consider it as if I didn't hear what you just said. Evangeline seemed to have made up her mind. Your Grace, she called, stopping him in his tracks. She wouldn't let him leave just like that. You know I'm being serious, right? Her affirmation made him falter. Decano turned back to look at her, remaining silent. Evangeline placed her hand on her chest, making her stance clear. If you're willing to talk, come see me anytime. I'll be waiting. Sunlight streamed into the mansion. Decano was working with some papers when a voice called out, Your Grace. Michael approached and said, I apologize for interrupting your work, but please take a look at this. He handed him some newspapers. Decano asked, what is this? Michael replied, it's the newspaper I retrieved before it was widely distributed. He continued, it almost made the front page. Decano picked up the newspaper. The headline read, A Certain Lady's Secret Outing. The article continued, last Friday night, a lady of noble birth visited a certain townhouse on Milk Street, according to an anonymous source. This lady is known to be close to the homeowner. He finished reading and asked the source. Michael replied, there's speculation that the rebel family's butler sold the information. From his perspective, the captain had the butler dismissed earlier, seemingly believing the leak was resolved. Decano leaned back and scoffed naive. Putting the newspaper down, he asked, what have you found out? Michael reported, Count Rebel, Captain Kirian's father, was appointed governor of the Edith Islands for 20 years. Rumor has it he's quite ambitious and wants to return to Roax's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Recently, he sent Andis, his eldest son, to establish connections with nobles in the empire. Decano praised him, good work. Send this news to Count Rebel. Michael asked, puzzled, to Count Rebel, sir? He casually replied, the father should know what foolish things his second son is doing here. If the Count wants to enjoy his old age under Edith's scorching sun, he'll know to control himself, he said coldly. Michael swallowed, hesitantly replying, I understand. There's one more thing I'd like to report. The rebel family's butler has been talking a lot at the tavern. I don't know when a young lady's news will be in the papers again. For now, I'll meet with the company heads and remind them. Decano objective, no, he seriously declared. Throw them bigger bait. Like my wedding. Michael said, stunned. You're really holding the wedding, sir? Decano calmly said, this marriage was decided long ago. It was only postponed because of various circumstances. He anxiously added, but your Grace. Michael wanted to say more, but he was interrupted. Enough. Don't you have other matters to handle? He hesitantly said, then, the rough stone you brought back from the burger, should I wrap it as a gift? Michael's words startled him. He ordered, throw it away. He asked, confused, yes, sir? Decano grimaced. He said irritably, I said throw it away. It's useless now. Without the stone, it wouldn't affect the prearranged wedding. No longer being able to see your smiling face. I feel a bit regretful. The room glittered with a few rustling sounds. A suitcase was packed full of belongings. Evangeline walked to the dressing table. looking at the diamond ring placed in the jewelry box. The position of Duchess, it's not mine anymore. Accepting this truth, I feel much more at ease than before. I think I've used this room long enough. The possessions I can take with me aren't as many as I thought. Even so, the reason I can't easily leave this mansion. Suddenly, there was a noise. Woof, woof. Evangeline smiled brightly and opened her arms, calling Rex. An adorable Leon Burger dog ran towards her excitedly, barking. It stamped its feet and leaped. Rushing to hug her, Evangeline and the dog looked very happy. She sat down and stroked Rex's fur that you're always so full of energy, huh? It wagged its tail happily in agreement. Woof. Rex nuzzled its head against her hand, making her say adoringly, "Even a dog should have some dignity, Rex. You're a descendant of the ancient northern dogs, you know." Pampered by Evangeline, it played around. She continued gently, "Humph, are you even listening to me, Rex?" Honestly, she felt a pang of sadness. If I leave this place, I'll have to say goodbye to Rex. Evangeline said worriedly, "Rex, you have to live well. Be brave, okay?" He responded with a bark. She lifted Rex on her LAP'd-MY baby. Hearing footsteps, Evangeline turned around to look. Someone was approaching. A voice rang out, "Leaving so soon?" It was Decano. He continued, "If you have time, why not spare some for me? We haven't finished our conversation." Beside the flower bed near the clear blue lake, Evangeline was quite surprised by Decano's sudden appearance, while Rex didn't seem pleased at all, so it immediately growled a few times. Evangeline gently stood up, stroking Rex's head while reassuring him, "Shoo, Rex." Once he had calmed down and withdrawn his hostility, she turned to Decano. "Even if you hadn't said anything, I was already waiting." As if he had just heard something unbelievable, Decano tilted his head slightly and asked in a hoarse voice, "You were waiting for me?" Evangeline nodded and replied, "Of course. If you're ready, let's finish our conversation." She suddenly stopped when she smelled the faint scent of alcohol emanating from Decano as he approached. Looking up and staring at the flushed man, Evangeline bluntly asked, "Are you drunk?" Being caught off guard, Decano was stunned for a few seconds, his expression blank with a rare look of bewilderment. Evangeline thought to herself with a bit of exasperation, "What's wrong with this man?" Even on the day they drank together, she still clearly remembered that time when her father, Count O'Hara, was so drunk that his face was planted on the table. He slurred, admitting, "I thought I was quite the drinker, but compared to Duke Test, I'm nothing." But Decano had been surprisingly sober. He had maintained an irritating composure. "I thought he handled liquor well, but with that face and the way he's staggering. Just how much did he drink?" Seeing Evangeline's worried expression, Decano called out, "Evangeline." But how could she talk to someone who was drunk? So, Evangeline decided to postpone the conversation. Wait, I'll go get someone. You should go rest first. We'll talk later." Just as she turned to leave, Decano called out, "Wait, the annulment that you just said that in the heat of the moment, right? The reason I couldn't come that day." Not letting him finish, she coldly interrupted, "In the heat of the moment? So you've been thinking that all along?" "I was angry and disappointed, yes, but it wasn't a rash decision." Recalling the moment she stood alone, crying in the pouring rain, Evangeline couldn't hide the bitterness in her voice. "That day, I stood alone in front of my father's grave and thought about a lot of things. This will just happen again. I can't be a priority in your life." To her heartbreaking confession, Decano could only reply, "I couldn't help it. I'm a test. You know that." But Evangeline shook her head in disagreement. "It's not just that. We won't be equals if I stay here." Recalling how people often refer to her as the penniless woman who married into the Test family, she continued, "I'll be criticized for being shameless, for coveting this position, and I'll always have to watch your every move." As if he finally understood the root of the problem, Decano put a hand to his forehead with a slight grimace. He turned away and nodded. "All right, I understand what you're saying. I'll immediately return the Rohan territory and the VRS port to you. I'll also help you find your family's former trading company building in the city." Unexpectedly, those weren't what Evangeline wanted. Her surprised expression made that clear. "Why would you give me those things?" she asked. Decano replied casually, "With those, no one will be able to say you're living off of me again. I will live a proper and ambitious life as the Duchess of Test." Truly, at that moment, Evangeline didn't know what else to say, or rather, she was at a loss for words. If the problem is the difference in our circumstances, your solution of returning those circumstances is too simple. Seeing her hands clench, Rex worriedly nuzzled his face against her hand and whimpered a few times as if reminding her to calm down. However, this man was worse than a dog. She didn't know if it was partly due to the alcohol, but Decano couldn't even discern Evangeline's shifting emotions. He still called her name, Evangeline, with an innocent look. At that moment, she knew he was still as indifferent as ever. Letting the tears start to fall and stream down her cheeks, Evangeline said, "My ambition is not the position of Duchess." Decano furrowed his brows and asked then, although she was confronting a drunk man, there was no other way. Evangeline was forced to honestly voice her feelings. If she didn't, she feared she would no longer have the opportunity or the courage. "When I was at my most difficult, you would be by my side. That was my only wish. Saying it now has no meaning anymore, but I'm packing my things at the annex. When I'm finished, I'll contact you through the butler." Unwilling to let things continue like this, Decano reached out to stop her. "Wait, what about our child?" Hearing this, Evangeline was stunned and asked back, "Yes, what child are you talking about?" Decano replied, "During this time, we didn't just hold hands and sleep. So, isn't it possible that you're pregnant with my child?" After a few seconds of silence, Evangeline coldly asked, "Suppose that's the case, what difference does it make?" Seeing her place a hand on her stomach, Decano, as if finding a glimmer of hope, replied, "The child in your womb will secure your position. We don't need to argue anymore." Looking straight into his eyes with weariness, Evangeline forced a smile and said, "Duke, even if there is a child, we will still end this." Like a bolt of lightning, Decano involuntarily staggered back a few steps. Then he said, "Wait, Evangeline, whose idea was it to break off the engagement?" At this point, Rex could no longer stand this reprehensible man. He started growling and even intended to lunge and bite Decano. Fortunately, Evangeline stopped him in time. "Rex, I'm all right, Rex." Even more annoyed by the dog's barking, Decano had to pause the conversation here. He said, "After a week, the O'Hara family's debt will be settled at the LeBaron auction. By then, I'm sure you'll calm down and reconsider this marriage." Truly hopeless. Evangeline pursed her lips and looked up at him. Then she replied in a cold and resolute tone, "No. Whenever it is, my answer will remain the same." That evening, in Evangeline's room, she was standing by the window, gazing at the moon, when a servant entered and bowed respectfully. "Will you dine, Duchess? If you won't eat, I'll bring you tea. Anything if you'll just tell me." Knowing who had given the instructions, Evangeline didn't make things difficult for the servant. She gently requested, "Then bring me a meal. Just prepare it as usual." The maid cheerfully replied, "I understand, Your Grace." Although she greatly disliked the title Your Grace, Evangeline forced a smile. She vaguely understood that Decano seemed determined to formalize their marriage at any cost. "But I don't. Is there any way out?" She carefully rummaged in the bedside table and pulled out a rectangular object wrapped tightly in cloth, which seemed quite heavy. She pondered how she could possibly escape Decano. A perfect method to end our engagement. Chapter 18. A week later, as the brilliant light of sunset descended, enveloping Decano's vast mansion, inside his study, a private meeting was taking place between him and Fai Long. Falong's voice droned on. "This area is where the O'Hara Trading Company's ship sank. I've checked the entire nearby coastline, but haven't found much. I don't think further searching will be meaningful." He paused abruptly, realizing that Decano wasn't listening at all. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Startled, Decano came back to reality and asked blankly, "Was I doing something?" Fai Long responded irritably, "Doing something? What do you mean doing something?" He frowned and reproached him. "Ever since the news of Count O'Hara's disappearance spread, I've been searching for traces of him on your orders, but you're not even listening to my report. What are you thinking about?" "Some say they couldn't find the body," Fai Long continued. But Decano suddenly interrupted him with a strange question. "Fai Long, about that, isn't it interesting?" Fai Long was completely dumbfounded. "What? Interesting?" Decano explained, "They can't find the body, but personal belongings were sent to Evangeline. Moreover, they're things that would be difficult to find." Hearing this, Fai Long nodded in agreement, thinking to himself, "That's true. A drowned body would bloat in the water. Shoes and clothes wouldn't easily come off, yet such things were found. How ironic." As if remembering something, Fai Long asked, "I've searched everywhere that supposedly had traces, but I still haven't found anything. How are we supposed to find the O'Hara Trading Company?" Decano pointed to a spot on the map and replied, "We have to search the black markets in the nearby waters." He continued with a tone of certainty, "The O'Hara Trading Company mainly dealt in precious goods. The items that drifted from the wrecked ship will definitely be transferred to the black market, along with related information. This time, try searching there." It turned out Decano had a plan all along, yet he made Philong work so hard. Philong couldn't help but feel resentful. You should have said something sooner. I've been toiling for nothing. Decano replied indifferently. Well, I know you've been working hard. You've done well. Leaning back in his chair and placing his hands behind his head, Philong closed his eyes and said casually, anyway, our beautiful future Duchess must be very disappointed. Isn't she looking forward to news about her father? He's her only family, after all. Not noticing Decano's downcast and pensive expression, Philong continued, I was planning to go back and greet the young lady properly, but at this rate, I don't have the face to see her anymore. Once the export is done, when can we meet? Philong sighed, only to hear Decano reply, at the wedding. Philong nodded in agreement. Right, the wedding. But as soon as he said it, he realized something was off. He sat up straight and yelled, What? What do you mean? When exactly? Decano calmly replied with one word, soon. Even so, Philong still seemed unconvinced, so he asked with a worried expression, Does Miss O'Hara agree to hold the wedding ceremony under these circumstances? He seemed to have struck a nerve, as Decano fell silent for a moment. At the same time, the thought flashed through his mind. The butler reported that Evangeline seems to have returned to her former self. He also said she's eating well and allowing everyone to serve her in the bathroom. She must have realized my proposal is a practical solution. But why do I feel so uneasy? This feeling had been lingering in his heart, and he couldn't explain it. Sensing his friend's unease, Philong asked worriedly, Are you all right? Decano stood up with a cold expression and replied, Why wouldn't I be? I'm Euphine. That's all for now. I'm leaving. Surprised, Philong asked, Huh? What? Our conversation is just ending like this. Normally, they would meet until late at night, but Decano firmly replied, There's nothing more to discuss. I have another engagement. Philong hesitantly asked, Aren't you going to tell me the date and location of the wedding? Decano put his coat back on as he said, I'll tell you later. Rarely seeing his close friend so secretive, Philong looked at the crimson sky outside the window and guessed, What kind of engagement makes you want to leave so early? Could it be the LeBaron auction? Considering its importance, I suppose it's possible, right? Seeing Decano pause in adjusting his cuff, he knew he was right that I heard LeBaron is quite lively today. Is there something good? Unfortunately, before he could hear Decano's answer, Michael burst through the door, panting and announcing loudly, Your Grace, you need to go to LeBaron immediately. A premonition of something bad happening related to Evangeline washed over Decano. He frowned, his hand clenching into a fist. For those who didn't know, LeBaron was Zox's largest auction house, holding events 4 times a year. The auction scale was enormous, handling mansions, real estate, and other valuable items. Therefore, the main clientele were usually high rollers, but today, the majority present were the O'Hara family's creditors. Indeed, whispers and discussions filled the LeBaron auction house, revolving around reclaiming their dues from the O'Hara family's debt. As long as Duke Tess sells the Rosca Plains and the vineyard, we'll be able to get our money back, right? Probably. But what if he can't auction them off? That land is so vast. The big players at this auction won't miss it. Don't worry about that. At that moment, the auctioneer stepped onto the podium and announced, I will now proceed with the final auction of the day. Just as she finished speaking, a clear voice rang out from the main entrance. Excuse me. Everyone turned to look at the woman, cloaked in a long cape. Face, then removed her hood, revealing her exquisite beauty. Evangeline continued, I hear there's an auction taking place. The auctioneer didn't seem surprised by the uninvited guest. Placing a hand on her chest, she said respectfully, Miss O'Hara, I'm so sorry. I didn't think you'd be comfortable in a place like this. But if you wish to stay, I'll show you to Duke Tess's reserved seat. Evangeline immediately declined. N.O. I'm here to auction an item. May I have a moment of your time? The auctioneer, caught off guard, stammered this. Well, after a moment of careful consideration, she politely refused. Miss O'Hara, I don't know what item you wish to auction, but at LeBaron, we don't handle the precious belongings of young ladies. If you wish, I can recommend another auction house. Now, I must introduce the Rosca Plains, which His Grace the Duke has put up for auction. Evangeline shook her head. I'm here to auction something else. The auctioneer, clearly confused, explained with a flustered look, I apologize, but we've already informed our clients that the Rosca Plains will be auctioned. If you wish to change that, you must offer something more valuable. Having anticipated this, Evangeline held up the thin scroll she'd been clutching. Then, I believe the value of this will suffice. Accepting the aged scroll from Evangeline, the auctioneer remained skeptical. What is this exactly? She unfurled it and read the inscription. Her eyes widened in astonishment. And miss, this is... Evangeline nodded seriously. The deed to the Maika Sea. Not just the white sand beaches, but the surrounding islands as well. Seeing no hint of jest in Evangeline's expression, the auctioneer was stunned that a place unclaimed for years, the owner of the largest stretch of coastline in the south, practically unexplored territory, is Miss O'Hara. Unfazed by the shocked stares, Evangeline continued, I hear those interested in hotels and resorts are eager to acquire the Rosca Plains. The Maika Sea is no less valuable. I believe it would be perfect for resort development. What do you think? The auctioneer, holding a document of such immense value, had no grounds for refusal. With the same respectful demeanor, she replied, Yes, this is quite sufficient. May I inquire how you came to possess this document? Caught off guard by the question, Evangeline hesitated, averting her gaze. That, a distant memory surfaced. Long ago, Count O'Hara, her father, had handed her a box. Evangeline, this is yours. Hesitantly accepting it, she'd asked, What is it, father? Count O'Hara didn't answer, but instead gave cryptic instructions. No one can foresee the future. This is a secret gift from me. Keep it, and when you encounter an unbearable situation, open it. With this memory deeply etched in her mind, as Evangeline sat holding the box, she thought, 2 years ago, the gift father gave me when I entered the Duke's household. He said to open it when I'm driven into a corner. Perhaps what I need now is inside. And when she first opened it, she truly found a way to turn the situation around. But of course, Evangeline wouldn't bother explaining everything to the auctioneer, so she simply replied, My father's legacy. I think that's enough. Then she added, If it's possible to exchange items, I'll offer the deed to the Maika Sea. If that's too difficult, I'll try another auction house. Seeing Evangeline reach for the deed, the auctioneer, flustered, snatched it back. Wait, miss, wait a moment. As if to give her a firmer chance to decide, the auctioneer asked one last time, I'll give you 3 seconds to decide. What will you do? After confirming Evangeline's decision on how to proceed, the auctioneer returned to the podium amidst the murmurs and whispers of the attendees. She banged the gavel to silence the commotion. Once the atmosphere quieted, she announced, I hereby declare that the registration document for the Maika Sea will be auctioned for the aforementioned amount. The winning bidder will follow the staff's instructions. Hearing this, many attendees couldn't help but exclaim in excitement, Ah, good. I was worried when I heard the Rosca fields would be replaced with something else. I didn't expect the young lady to bring something of this magnitude to auction. As the manager of the O'Hara Trading Company, Philip couldn't help but be concerned about such a precious family heirloom falling into someone else's hands. He wanted to remind Evangeline, young mistress, but she cut him off abruptly later. I'll talk to you after this is over. So Philip had to restrain himself, wanting to speak but holding back. At this moment, a bald man approached, cleared his throat, and stammered, Ahem, young Mississippi. He held up his satchel full of money and continued, Miss, I apologize for my transgression a few days ago. Hearing this, Philip, standing behind Evangeline, cringed. He gritted his teeth, thinking these people who were threatening and shouting in front of the annex just days ago are now pretending to be friendly after receiving money. Contrary to him, Evangeline, as the young head of the O'Hara family, maintained her composure and replied, Thank you for coming to me like this. I also have something to say to everyone. Although unintentional, it's true that our family has caused great harm to everyone. At this point, she placed her hand on her chest and bowed without another word. Of course, this happened before Philip had a chance to stop her, and his face paled considerably. Such an action, extremely rare for someone of noble rank, startled many of those present. They exclaimed, No, miss, don't do that. The bald man agreed. That's right, you'll become the Duchess of the Test family. How can you? But Evangeline remained indifferent to the judging stares around her. She spoke seriously. I've always had many shortcomings. It's only natural that I apologize to everyone. Also, I sincerely thank you all. Another wave of shock went through the O'Hara family's creditors, who now shared a common feeling, awkwardness and embarrassment. Essentially, every single one of them had caused trouble at the O'Hara building. Yet, Evangeline gave them a bright smile and continued with a grateful tone, "For trusting my father for so long, I won't forget the kindness you've shown our family until now. I wish you all a peaceful night." Like a final farewell, Evangeline turned and left the auction hall with Philip amidst the murmurs of the guests. The two of them proceeded to the waiting room, where the auctioneer was already waiting. "I've been waiting for you, Mississippi. This is a copy of the contract for the Manhwa that you won at auction." Accepting the contract, Evangeline nodded and replied, "Thank you for your hard work." The auctioneer bowed respectfully and said, "I'll excuse myself now. If there are any good items, please feel free to contact me anytime." Then, the auctioneer left, leaving Evangeline and Philip to review the contract together. Even now, Philip still felt a pang of regret. He sadly reproached, "Young mistress, selling this. You've already paid off the debt. If it were for relatives, it would be understandable, but you didn't need to bow your head to those investors." Evangeline sighed and explained her exceptional action. "Philip, during this time, I received money from my father and lived a life without envy. For those who helped me enjoy that life, I naturally have to respect them." Surprised by the maturity of the young mistress who had once just learned to walk, Philip stopped mentioning it. After all, it was fortunate that everything had been resolved peacefully, but I didn't expect you to own the Manhwa. Evangeline chuckled and honestly replied, "Actually, I didn't know either. I kept something my father gave me a few years ago. He said to open it during a crisis. So I recently opened it. I'm glad it protected my father's honor. Now I truly hope he can rest in peace." Philip looked to her with heartache. Whenever they mentioned Count O'Hara, neither of them could suppress their grief and longing. After a melancholic sigh, Evangeline quickly regained her composure and cheerfully said, "Anyway, it's all over now." She asked, "Philip, you haven't forgotten what I asked you to do, have you?" Philip, with his mind still sharp, immediately replied, "Ah, yes." She smiled with satisfaction, that if possible, I hope to see it in tomorrow morning's newspaper. It was easy to see that she couldn't wait any longer. Suddenly, Philip's face paled and his voice stammered, "Why, young mistress?" This puzzled Evangeline. "Philip, what's wrong?" But Philip didn't need to answer, because the reason for his sudden change in color spoke up, calling Evangeline. The familiar voice was instantly recognizable. Evangeline turned around in surprise. Sure enough, it was Decano. His incredibly handsome face was still slightly damp with sweat, and his breathing was a little heavy. He must have run very fast to get here. Though his breath had yet to steady, Decano went straight to the point. "I heard you changed the auction item. In the end, what did you gain by going this far?" Evangeline smiled serenely and replied, "Myself. I no longer have a father nor a family. I only have myself left." She could smile like this in front of Decano because she thought, because I can endure the humiliation, because the humiliation from strangers doesn't affect me. But to be treated this way by someone I thought understood me, my will to endure has vanished. Despite this, Evangeline couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness and disappointment. This will be the last time I see this man. Honestly, I'll probably be okay, right? Consider it a chance to end all the troubles as well as the feelings in my heart. Evangeline poured out her honest feelings. "Actually, I really enjoyed the time I spent with you, Your Grace." Despite Decano calling her name, "Evangeline," she continued, "before, I just wandered around aimlessly, but I felt proud to have found a place to stay. Finally, a place I could call home. As Her Grace said, I didn't know anything about this world, so I dreamed of a house in a fairy tale." Hearing this, Decano said sadly, "But I'm the problem." Unexpectedly, Evangeline frankly denied, "I teed and oh, you were a part of it too." This left Decano shocked. What? Tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, Evangeline mustered the courage to confess to the man she loved. I like you very much." Normally, Decano would have been overjoyed, but in this situation, he could only call her name with a bewildered expression, "Evangeline." Unfortunately, Evangeline didn't want to hear another word from him, so she spoke before he could say anything that might sway her heart. "I've said what I wanted to say. I'll be going now. Thank you for everything." Fearing this would be their last encounter, Decano quickly grabbed her hand and asked, "Wait, you're just going to leave like this?" Evangeline smiled. "Yes. To break off the engagement, I directly repaid the debt. Your Grace wanted a convenient duchess, but I don't want to live like that. So, we can't be together anymore. Now we'll just hear about each other through the newspapers." Decano, Unwilling to let her go, pleaded, Evangeline, wait. But her hand resolutely slipped from his. The only and final message Evangeline left for Decano was a simple wish, I wish you peace. He stood stunned, watching her long, silky white hair and slender, yet inexplicably strong back as she walked away. Decano could do nothing but watch Evangeline's retreating figure. In her dignified departure, he saw for the first time an Evangeline so resolute, ruthless, and cold. Just as Evangeline instructed, early the next morning, newspapers filled with news of her and Decano's broken engagement were distributed everywhere. Special edition, Duke Test and Miss O'Hara. It became a hot topic for public discussion. This breaking news, of course, also reached the palace, and upon reading it, Aiden exclaimed in surprise, Huh? What's this? In all that chaos, he still acted like he was going to force the marriage through. Breaking news. Duke Test breaks off engagement with Miss O'Hara. Aiden muttered in disbelief. So, they broke up after all. The moon hung languidly in the night sky. 3 days after the broken engagement, at the Navy Club, a man was preparing food inside the room. In another scene, dozens of bullets were fired continuously at a dummy. Philin holstered his gun and said, Wow, this new version has a solid grip. Duke Test's scale is truly different. Because he likes it, he establishes a whole club dedicated to the Navy. Suddenly, he felt something was off. Philin gave a wry smile. Nothing. But in his head, he thought, honestly, he's been so down since that day. Decano's eyes seemed melancholic. 3 days ago, the engagement between Duke Test and Miss O'Hara, once praised as a perfect match, had fallen apart. Evangeline had said, I was the one who proposed breaking off the engagement. I decided to support each other's futures without any regrets. Miss O'Hara's interview was published in a newspaper. Although it was cliched and boring, it was enough to embroil the previously unshakable Test family in scandal. Philin guessed it must be his first time experiencing something like this, so he's feeling confused. He picked up a gun and looked at Decano. Here, you try it too. You know the aiming techniques, right? Imagine the face of someone you hate on the target. Decano was slightly annoyed. No need. You go ahead and do it more. Philin felt hurt. Hey, don't say it like that. Suddenly, 3 men walked in the door. The one in front said, Have you two heard the news? Today, Kirian, Philin, and Decano turned to look at the voice. Met some woman at a hotel. I couldn't get a good look, but I heard she's a stunning beauty with platinum blonde hair. Someone even said he looked as eager as if he was about to propose. Does he have a lover already? Hearing this, the 2 men behind him paled and looked at each other. Suddenly, a gun was raised in the cold silence. Instantly, a hole appeared in the dummy. Philin called out in surprise, Decano. He replied coldly, Philin, like you said, this gun isn't bad. At the Jocks Hotel, the magnificent door suddenly opened slightly. Kirian looked out in surprise, seeing Evangeline walk in. He said, Eva. Evangeline said cheerfully, Kirian, long time no see. Kirian replied excitedly, Finally, I get to see you like this. Eva replied, Yes, I've been feeling bad about not being able to see you then. Thank you for coming. The young ladies behind them gasped and whispered, Isn't that Miss O'Hara? I heard she broke off her engagement a few days ago. Is she already looking for a new husband? Kirian, hearing this, looked annoyed. He said dismissively, It wasn't even an official marriage, so what's the big deal? Ignore them, Eva. She calmly replied, I'm fine. People will continue to watch for a while. I anticipated this. Evangeline mused. Even though I rejected the position of Duchess Test, the best marriage prospect in the Empire, I'm still seen as someone desperate to marry. It's funny. I'm tired of expecting anything from anyone or sharing responsibilities. Seeing Evangeline lost in thought, Kirian called out, Eva. She came back to her senses and turned to him, saying, Oh, sorry. You should drink your tea before it gets cold. I ordered your favorite. Kirian reached for his teacup and said, Ah, thank you. When I was on the warship, I didn't have time to drink tea. Being able to see you again and enjoy tea like this, it's like a dream. Evangeline continued, Come to think of it, becoming a naval officer was your long-time dream. How is it? Kirian quietly replied, I'm not sure. It's very different from what I imagined. Every day is spent rolling around on a swaying ship. Physical training, shooting practice, until I hit the target, I can't rest. On tiring days like those, I miss the taste of this tea. Evangeline softly explained. Remember? This tea is similar to the kind Earl O'Hara cultivated at the tea farm in Adis. We rushed to pick the tea leaves, and you got hurt from falling. After hearing about that, the Earl built a huge flower garden in the tea plantation, but we couldn't drink that same tea anymore. Instead, you were so happy to see all the different kinds of flowers. Kirian said excitedly. That time was truly happy. I missed you so much, Eva. Suddenly she spoke that Kirian. Coincidentally, Kirian also spoke at the same time. Eva, actually, I'm thinking of leaving the Navy. Evangeline asked in surprise. You're resigning from the Navy? He calmly replied, yeah, it doesn't really suit me. She continued to ask, but then what are you going to do? Kirian pondered, I don't know yet. I'll think about the details later. I've already told my father and brother that I'm resigning. You only live once, so I want to live without regrets. Eva, I want our relationship to go back to how it was. Before, you and I, we were so happy then. If it were me, I would be by your side during difficult times. I would protect you so you wouldn't fall into danger. Now you're no longer engaged, so I'll say this. Eva, I want to marry you. After those words, Evangeline froze, as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. She thought to herself, he actually said it again. Kirian slowly spoke. With sincerity, you don't know how long I've waited for this moment. I'm confident I can do well. She silently thought, everyone knows I'm being criticized for breaking off the engagement, but he wants to marry me, so he won't have regrets. What about me? Have you tried thinking from my perspective? Having finished her thoughts, she said, Kirian, we can't go back to that time. I'm planning to leave Jocks. I came here today to say goodbye. I pray you'll have a life you desire. The next time we meet, I hope we can talk about the present, not the past. A flicker of disappointment crossed Kirian's eyes. But Eva, I'm serious. He froze when he heard her assert, Kirian, you don't love me. After those words, silence fell over the scene. Evangeline calmly stood up, picked up her suitcase, and said, I'll treat you today. Be careful going home. The moment Evangeline passed by him, Kirian suddenly spoke, You're engaged to Duke Test, aren't you? A chance like this, you can't give it to me? What's the difference between that man and me? Just then, Evangeline stopped and lightly touched Kirian's shoulder. She hesitated, then said, Let's stop this conversation here. Thank you for visiting my father that night, Captain. He opened his mouth, hesitating as if he wanted to say something, but then remained silent. She turned and walked away, leaving behind 3 words, take care. Evangeline's face was sad, her heart heavy as she said to herself, I've lost my family, my honor, and my friends. She recalled her argument with Decano. He had said, searching for the life you desire. What about you, Evangeline? Is this truly the life you want? Then she continued to ponder, no, how could it be? I gave up everything, but I've never been content with the present. Now, if I have to do everything alone, I will leave the place where he is and start a new life. On a day with a clear blue sky and white clouds, Evangeline gently moved her slender fingers. Evangeline held her hand to her chest, smiled, and thought, I gave up my position as a member of the Duke's family, which I thought was a given. I don't regret it. On the contrary, I feel very relieved. Now, I will draw my own path forward. She remembered being held by her father as a child, looking at the blue sky, watching the birds fly freely in the sky, thinking just like how father used to do. She turned and walked away softly. If there's one regret, it's losing Kirian. Evangeline clenched her hand, silently and sadly thinking, the person I thought would be my friend for life. One of the reasons I left him was because Kirian had developed feelings for me. A few hours earlier, she had met Andis at the Jocks Hotel. He said, it's been a while, Evangeline. She asked curiously, Andis? Andis calmly said, I heard that after breaking off the engagement, you were staying at this hotel. It's true. She smiled and invited him in. Come inside. I also have an appointment with Kirian later. Andis quickly replied, no, there's no need for that. Listen carefully, Evangeline. Andis put his hands behind his back and said seriously, Kirian said he will leave the Navy and marry you soon. His father fainted when he heard the news. He continued, Evangeline, if you marry Kirian, our family will collapse. You're intelligent. You'll surely understand what I'm saying. Don't give Kirian false hope. Upon hearing Andis's words, she felt sad and hurt, thinking, is being close to me now harmful to someone? Evangeline gripped her suitcase tightly. Even though I understand what Andis is saying, his words are enough to leave a wound in my heart. There's no place for me in this capital anymore. So, Evangeline was lost in thought when she heard a voice call out from behind her, young mistress. She gently turned to look, and it was Philip. He quickly ran towards her. Evangeline faced him and smiled brightly. You called the carriage at just the right time. Thank you, Philip. He replied, of course, that's my job. Philip fulfilled his duty, helping her into the carriage. But, miss, are you leaving already? It's rare to have a break. Why not stay a little longer? Evangeline smiled brightly and replied, I'd like to, but staying in one place doesn't suit me. After helping her into the carriage, he was about to get in himself, but before he could, Evangeline slammed the door shut. Startled, Philip asked, Young mistress. Once she was settled inside, she leaned out the window and asked, surprised, Aren't you Philip? Evangeline took out a black box and handed it to him. Take this first. It's a gift for you, though it's nothing special. Philip opened the box and, seeing it was full of jeweled ornaments, exclaimed in surprise, Young mistress, wasn't the money left after paying off the debt supposed to be for your jewelry? Why are you giving it to me? Evangeline replied to his question, It's all right. You've always been by my side. I truly thank you. Philip quickly responded, No, it was my duty. Holding the gift box, Philip looked at Evangeline pleadingly, that I will continue to serve you, young mistress. Please let me in. She closed her eyes and said, Unfortunately, I can no longer afford to employ anyone. A moment's pity and admiration won't get us far. Evangeline thought of Kyrian. Even those I've known for a long time, if our ways of thinking differ, we can't walk the same path. Philip still tried to persuade her, but young mistress, Evangeline rested her hand on the window frame and proposed, How about this? I will definitely succeed and come back for you, Philip, when I'm in a better position. Until then, please take care of yourself. He stared at her for a moment, then said, I will wait for you, young mistress. He bowed as the carriage started to move. Inside, the driver turned back and asked Evangeline, Miss, where would you like to go? She was staring intently at a letter. Then she looked up and told the driver, Take me there. Under the sweltering sky, the sun beat down on a house. Evangeline stepped out of the carriage and walked slowly. Wiping the sweat from her brow, she thought, The half-day carriage ride has made me quite tired. Looking at the house before her, she mused, This is the place, isn't it? Evangeline looked at the letter in her hand, tracing its lines. She called out, Nanny. She looked at the address written on the letter. The address on Nanny's letter. Evangeline recalled her childhood, traveling with her father. Because I followed father to different countries around the world, every time I got close to someone, the servants would change their attitude. Nanny took care of me and protected me. Nanny was the only one who protected me for 10 years. One evening, Evangeline, sitting in Nanny's lap, asked Nanny, Are you really leaving for Mag? Nanny replied, It seems the master has told you. She stroked Evangeline's hair and said, I want to take care of you until your debut into high society. Evangeline innocently replied, Then you can just stay until then. Why are you leaving now? Nanny thought of her deceased daughter and grandson. My daughter, who lived in Mag, has passed away, and there's only one left. To Miss, the Count is her only remaining relative, and that boy is my only remaining relative. She hugged and kissed Evangeline, smiling that sweet girl, I will definitely write to you. Don't be too sad. Nanny hugged Evangeline tightly and said, We will meet again. Evangeline stood outside her nanny's front door, lost in thought. She probably only remembers me as a child. She worried. Is it too awful of me to visit looking like this? The letter said I could come any time, but what if she's disappointed by how much I've changed? While she was pondering, a voice called out, Hey, are you coming in or going out? Evangeline jumped, startled. Oh my! She quickly regained her composure and turned around. Who's there? A young man spoke up. Honestly, I thought you were a thief. Another young man with red hair added. Someone as timid as you couldn't be a thief, could they? Evangeline bristled at being called a thief. A thief? How rude. In the tense atmosphere, she looked at the red-haired young man with apprehension, while he stared back seriously. Evangeline broke the tension. First, I apologize for disturbing you so late. The red-haired young man smiled. Thanks for admitting it. Then, he suddenly asked, You're my lady, aren't you? Evangeline was surprised by the question. Yes, Evangeline replied hesitantly. He scratched his head. My grandmother complains every day. Isn't she my famous lady? I've heard about your hair and eye color about 1,000 times. I'd be an idiot if I didn't remember. Red is a rare eye color in the Empire. As he spoke, Evangeline unconsciously touched her silver-white hair. He politely extended his hand. I'm Khan's, your nanny's grandson. Evangeline looked at his outstretched hand with some hesitation. She started to reach out to return the greeting, but Khan suddenly withdrew his hand. Greeting a noble lady like this won't do. I apologize for my ignorance. Evangeline looked at Khan's, thinking, This man doesn't seem to welcome me. It's clearly our first meeting. Khan suddenly called out, Hey, my lady. He continued, If you're here to see her, I don't recommend it. Evangeline asked anxiously, Why? I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just curious about Nanny's well-being. As she spoke, Khan held up a hand to interrupt. I know. I'm saying this for your own good. My grandmother doesn't remember anything anymore. Evangeline gasped. What? Evangeline remembered the image of her nanny braiding her hair. Cons continued. She may have forgotten her memories of you. The sun began to set, casting a golden-orange glow across the room. Nanny smiled warmly. Oh my lady's come to see me. Evangeline moved, took her hand. Nanny beamed. I never thought I'd see you all grown up in person. She pulled Evangeline towards some framed pictures on the wall. After I went to Mag, the Count often sent me your portraits. Look here. Every time I saw how my little lady was growing up, I was so proud to have taken care of you during your childhood. Not long ago, the Count invited me to your engagement ceremony, but my health wasn't good, so I couldn't go. I've always felt so bad about that. Evangeline comforted her. But it's all right, Nanny. Aren't we together now? Nanny exclaimed. Now my lady has truly become a duchess. Her words gave Evangeline pause, unsure how to respond. Nanny continued, beaming. The head of the Tez dukedom, of course. My lady can do anything. Evangeline opened her mouth as if to speak. She embraced her nanny. Evangeline's face was full of emotion. Her nanny said, right? I can do anything, can't I? The nanny hugged her tightly. My lady. Suddenly, she spoke, but you look like a grown-up. When did you get so big? It seems like during the day, you were chasing after the Count to the harbor. She looked at Evangeline's skirt. Your dress is all wrinkled today, too. My lady often pretends not to know, sneaking off to the harbor. But this old nanny knows everything. Evangeline smiled. That's right, I can't fool Nanny. The two talked late into the night, as the moon rose high, shining brightly in the darkness. Evangeline opened the door and stepped outside. Hearing Cons ask, so, did you get to unburden your heart to her? She hesitated. Nanny. Cons explained, she's had memory loss for a few years now, but sometimes she becomes lucid. When she saw you, was she lucid? Evangeline replied, yes. Cons pulled out a chair. Please sit down. Evangeline asked, has it been difficult for you after Nanny became ill? Cons immediately replied, no, I just want her to live happily in her own way. Thanks to you. She seemed especially happy today. More importantly, I apologize. He poured tea into a porcelain cup. Evangeline was surprised by the apology. What? Cons explained, I asked you to be careful with your words. He had told her she still doesn't know about the Count's disappearance and your broken engagement. Please don't mention those things. Cons also sat down at the table. It's not that I'm afraid you'll hurt her. While living with me, she always talks about you. But if she learns about the Count's accident or your broken engagement, even without those things, I'm afraid her condition will worsen. Evangeline smiled understandingly. Yes, understand. I didn't come here to worry her. Cons inquired, but my lady, are you eating properly? He spoke while drinking his water. If you collapse, my grandmother will be distraught because she cherishes you. So please, take care of your health. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. My lady. Evangeline's face was filled with tears. She gave a weak smile. Thank you for your concern. Knowing that someone still cares about me is comforting. Cons stammered, flustered, that I... Evangeline wiped her tears with a handkerchief. I'm sorry to surprise you. I've been through so much that I'm more sensitive than before. She said, staying any longer will be a burden. I should go. Cons was surprised. Go. Evangeline reached for her suitcase as she replied, yes, I originally came here to see Nanny. I had something I wanted to say when I saw her again, but it seems the situation doesn't allow it. I apologize for coming here unannounced. Cons quickly stood up. No, wait. He sincerely offered, if you leave like this, my grandmother will scold me. Until you find a place to stay, please stay here for a few days. Evangeline waved her hand, and I couldn't impose. But Cons took the suitcase from her hand. There are spare rooms, so it's no problem. He went up the stairs and pointed that I'll prepare a room on the second floor. I won't be going up there tomorrow, so please feel free to use it. Evangeline looked on, slightly embarrassed, as Cons carried her suitcase upstairs. She smiled emotionally. Thank you. Scene changes to Decano's room. The butler is placing letters on the desk. Suddenly, someone appeared from behind. The butler turned and greeted, Your Lordship. The person who appeared is Decano, his expression cold, but unable to diminish his handsome features. The butler bowed. I was waiting for you. There's quite a bit that requires your input for replies. These are invitations to banquets. It's currently the main social season among the upper class. These are invitations that have been maintained for generations, so it's very difficult for me to decline. Decano looked at the pile of letters, thinking to himself, I just broke off the engagement and the invitations are flooding in. They aren't even bothering to hide their intentions. The butler continued his report. In addition, there are also letters from the branch families. Decano spoke up. Those, butler, read them to me. The butler obeyed and read aloud. The weather will be good soon, and the merchant ships will begin to operate again. It seems they are planning something. There's also a note attached saying they want to do something to help the Duke's family. Decano frowned in annoyance upon hearing this. Not doing anything would be helping already. Why don't they think of it that way? He coldly ordered, "Burn all the letters." As the butler was picking up each letter, Decano suddenly noticed a letter with a different red seal. He asked, "Wait, who sent that letter? There's no emblem or decoration on it." The butler replied, "Ah, this one. It's a letter from Miss O'Hara." Decano froze upon hearing this. He slowly said, "Give it to me." Decano opened the letter. "Duke Test, I regret having to say goodbye in this way. Although there were hardships, I don't regret the time we spent together. I don't hate or resent you at all. Please consider this broken engagement as my ambition. The only thing I could do now is quickly forget you, even if only for a day. I am in a place far away from the Test dukedom. I want to start a new life. I hope your family will become increasingly glorious and prosperous. Evangeline O'Hara." After reading it, Decano clenched the letter in his hand. He rested his hand on his forehead, as if suppressing his emotions. Decano asked the butler. There was another letter of the same color, also left by that woman. The butler replied, "Ah, yes, but," he explained, "this letter is not for the Duke, but for Rex in the annex. There's a note requesting it be read in front of Rex." Decano covered his forehead in exasperation. "Give it here. To Rex, my little one and eternal companion, forever loving and remembering you." The butler, looking at this letter, was startled to realize it was 3 times longer than the letter to the Duke. Decano also noticed this. He sighed, gritting his teeth. "Evangeline, to you, am I only such a person?" Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you relaxing and enjoyable moments. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.